Tradoon. Tradoon. Tradoon.
Dirter.
Ontogeny.
Tradoon.
Hello. Without a doubt, you came here today to learn about the most extraordinary group of animals that have ever appeared on this planet, the dinosaurs. But today, in contrast to those magnificent beasts, the creature we will be examining is admittedly less impressive, even puny in stature, at less than 2 meters tall. It is a paleontologist. Normally, it is elusive, but now, using the latest in streaming technology, we can see for ourselves. Shall we?
Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Paleontologizing.
Feeding almost entirely on plants, it has no sharp claws or fearsome teeth.
There you go.
Being so preoccupied with the study of ancient life, the fossil scientist seems to exist only to dig up, examine, and discuss fossils.
This is the same dinosaur.
Although many of his kind are shy and reclusive, ours here has learned to communicate over vast distances, broadcasting his strange sounds far and wide.
Ankylosaurus and Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus Rex. It is indeed true in human face bone, birds are dinosaurs.
His bizarre display is fascinating to watch.
Now this next
Creatures like this are quite rare, requiring very specific conditions to survive.
Bloody. Thanks for the hydrate. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Pretty cool, right?
So that it does not die out like the fossil organisms which it studies, we must work to protect this rare and curious creature from extinction.
Hello, buddy, and welcome back to Paleontologizing.
The beast.
Holy cow.
The beast.
The what? I'm sorry.
The
Say it
beast.
again?
The
I didn't
beast
catch
from
it.
20,000 fathoms.
Holy cow. And what was that
The
again?
beast.
I didn't catch it the first
beast.
16 times.
The beast.
The what? Sea Frog, thank you for the 13 months of support. I really appreciate that. And
If you're feeling a
Gesundheit,
bit cheated, try
Golganek.
blaming the dinosaurs.
How are you
It
doing?
belongs in a museum.
And thank you, the Raven, for those 100 bits too. It's really good to have all of you here. Holy cow! Let's get the holiday tunes going. I think I've got that right here. There we go. Welcome to Paleontologizing, everybody. Sorry I'm a little bit late today. Took a long time to get OBS up and running properly, and I've had a bunch of other stuff. I had to make a run to the old apartment. I'm still moving things over. I've got until December 31st to get everything over. But I've got my ukulele here now. I've got a Camarasaurus skull right here and a number of other things. So, anyway. Yeah. If anybody's here for the very first time, then an extra special welcome to them. Welcome to Paleontologizing. And let me introduce myself real quick. My name is Danny Andu, and I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. You probably know already that a
If
paleontologist
you're feeling
is
a bit
a
cheated,
fossil
try blaming the
scientist.
dinosaurs.
Scary holiday countdown continues.
And thank you, Risudego, for the 100 bits there. Appreciate that very much. Scary holiday countdown. Kind of scary holiday.
Dinosaurs hold a special magnetism for children.
And that they are magnetically drawn to them, so that they might eat them. A Truckhorn, thank you for the 19 months of support. I really appreciate that, Truckhorn. Thank you, thank you. What was I saying? Oh yeah, introducing myself. My name is Danny Andu. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. I'm here on Twitch trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach. So, talking about fossils, talking about my work and the work of my colleagues.
Ancient predecessor of the Tyrannosaurus,
Awkward Cyborg.
mighty hunter of the Jurassic Age, giant meat-eater with long dagger-like teeth.
Thanks for
Appreciate you.
everything you do. I hope you reach your partner plus goal.
Thank you, Awkward Cyborg. You are helping me with that. Thank you so much for the 5 months of support. appreciate that very, very much. Thank you, Awkward Sidewalk. Neverwinter says it's a bit hard to hear you, Danny. Really? It's, shouldn't be. Yeah. Are Danny's audio levels real low? They should not be. That's not what they're supposed to be. I didn't touch anything. And it looks good on my end. Shoot. I can turn the music volume down a little bit. See if that helps. But yeah. Lower level voice for me. That's really strange. Mic is a little quiet? Shouldn't be. Let me take a look at this.
And we all knew, if it hadn't been for that great dinosaur who saved us from the American forces, we would all be dead.
Holy cow, Origin TT. Thank you for the 8 months of support.
Dance.
That's a dire story there. I hope it had a happy ending. Thank you, Origin TT. Yeah. My audio is a little low. That makes no sense. I've literally not changed anything, but... Is that better? Let me know if that's better. Yeah, let me know. This might be a Twitch issue. This might not be on my end at all, you know?
If you're feeling a bit cheated, try blaming the dinosaurs.
Oh, I often do,
We added
Gormabald.
50 bits to Gormabald's cheer.
Oh,
Bonus
thank you,
bits
Twitch,
unlocked.
for those
We
extra
added 50 more bits.
100 bits.
Third, it may not seem
Gormabald.
much. 500 bits goes a long way towards supporting
Does go a long
science. Our Twitch here on Twitch.
Thank you,
Hi,
Gormabald.
and
Thank
Merry
you
Christmas or whatever you celebrate
very
to
much.
you in chat.
I really appreciate that, Gormabald. Thank you. Yeah. It's still a bit low. Let's turn it up a little bit in OBS then. And see if that helps at all. How's that? Is that better? Let me know if that's better. Okay, good. Really strange. I haven't had to turn this up in well over a year and a half. It must be a Twitch issue. But yeah, good. Hopefully this doesn't blow out the audio on the VOD or something. Good stuff. That's more like usual. It's so strange. Anyway, it's good to have everybody here. Welcome to Paleontologizing. If I didn't adequately explain it before this, there's a broadcast in which we talk about fossils. We talk about fossil science. We talk about the history of life on Earth and why it's relevant to all of us in the modern day. How paleontology can give us perspective that we wouldn't otherwise have on our everyday lives. Because, what's the old phrase, if you don't know where you're going... No, you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. The past is the key to the present in a lot of ways, and we're talking about that here. Today, I didn't have a great deal of time to prepare a subject, so why don't we just get into the winter spirit and talk about dinosaurs in snowy environments. People who are fairly new here might be surprised to know that there were a lot of dinosaurs that would have lived in snowy climates. You might think of dinosaurs as being classically reptilian, scaly-skinned, cold-blooded, you know, almost subtropical animals that would have been uncomfortable in cold climes. We now know that is not the case, and I'll be telling you why. But yeah. Maybe Zoom did it when you did the science panel stream? Oh, I didn't use Zoom for that, Marispace. We were using Twitch Guest Star. Yeah, and in which case, we would have had the same issue yesterday when we came back from that, but... Yeah, the Raven says, I like how the office is coming together. Thank you, the Raven. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah. And Anakin Gabriel says, so if the poles were not always frozen, are snow dinosaurs more common in mountain areas or something like that? They are dinosaurs that lived in the snow. That's more common at higher latitudes. We didn't ever have that at equatorial levels. But yeah, we'll be talking about that. Yeah. And, to Lawrence's, I, for one, am surprised, as I was certain that Pangaea's location, along with the higher temperature of the time, would have made snowy climates rather absent. To Lauren, that's what we thought for a long time, but you gotta recognize something else, too, is that Pangaea was only really in full swing at the very beginning of the Age of Dinosaurs. Let's talk about that. Here we go. So, this is planet Earth about 240 million years ago. And conveniently, there are the borders of modern countries drawn on here so that you can kind of tell what's going on. This is South America right here, Africa right there. We've got India and Madagascar, Antarctica, Australia, and New Zealand all lumped together over there. And then North America, Europe, and Asia over here. This is 240 million years ago, but dinosaurs were on Earth for like 170 million years from this point on. So the continents start to break up. There's 220 million years ago, 200 million years ago, 170 million years ago. You see the Atlantic Ocean start to open up. 150 million years ago. 120, 105, and so here we're getting toward the end of the Age of Dinosaurs at this point. 90 million years ago, super high sea levels. This is when Earth was very, very warm, about 90 million years ago. 66 million years ago, very warm too. And this is when the asteroid hit. There's the asteroid impact site right there. So anyway, when T-Rex and Triceratops were walking around, Earth's continents looked much the same that they do today, just a little bit, you know, a little bit off kilter. And sea levels were higher too. No Florida, for instance. Most of California was also underwater at the time. India hadn't yet crashed into Asia, but, you know, by and large, its continents are in a similar position to what they are today. Yeah. Semicolon says, that looks like the map of the Earth the last time I slept well. Oh, semicolons. I hope you rest well tonight. Oh, man. I appreciate you, semicolons. It's good to have you here. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Mayor Space says, hashtag bring back Florida. Make Florida underwater again. Like we're hard at work doing that, you know? Yeah. Ancient Earth globe site, Red Wagon? That's what we're looking at here, aren't we? Similar to this globe, but can backdate it. Red Wagon, if you've got a URL, go ahead and share it. Yeah, yeah. This is a really cool site. And that's the one we're looking at, Red Wagon. That's literally this website. Yeah. Anyway, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. Anyway, everybody, it's so good to have you here. And before we get started with the day's content, how many of you were here at the cocktail party last night? How many of you joined us? Sorry it took me so long to get to Ios and Lordy's place. There we go, Lenina. Thank you for your gift. Holy cow. This is excellent. Let me show everybody. Yeah, that is a lovely theropod dinosaur right there. Glass. Did you get stuck in traffic? It took. I know, right, Lenina? Holy cow! But let me show everybody what is being referenced with that lovely gift that you gave me. Thank you again, Lenina. Holy cow! There we go.
What made of? Glass. 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 glass,
I love that.
glass, 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 glass,
This is an African gray parrot.
glass,
Linux Switch says, I have one of those perched on my left shoulder. Really?
glass,
Holy cow. They are very intelligent animals.
glass, glass, glass,
What made of?
glass, 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 glass.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Tony is my baby says there's a metal band with an African gray parrot on vocals. Yeah, Deathbeak, right? That's not what they're called? No, Hatebeak. And this is Apollo the parrot. Yeah. I'll give you a link. I love birds too, Anakin Gabriel. They are indeed living dinosaurs. But even if they weren't, they'd still be really cool. But that makes them even cooler.
That's a bell. Quarter. That's a clock. This is Lex. Quarter. That's a rock. That's a rock. Rock. That's a rock. Quarter. That's a rock. That's a rock. Touch core. Watch core. Core.
Oh, man. I could watch these all day. But, yeah. I love African Greys too, Steffi. They're such cool birds. Yeah. Gameplay says, that has to be terrible. Sorry, Joe, you're just not cutting it anymore. The rest of the band voted. We decided we're going to replace you with a bird. I'm sure there are lots and lots of obscure metal bands that I never would have heard of, but I've heard of a Hatebeak because they have an avian vocalist, and that's really cool. You know, everybody loves birds. See? Aww. Yeah.
New office look.
And, Sephi, I moved. I'm in a new place now. Yeah. New office. Check it out. Yeah. I'm working on getting more cameras and stuff set up. But yeah. New place. New office. New living space. Things are good. Things are real good. Anyway, thank you for your continued support, Sephi. 5 months there. Thanks for keeping me here on the air and helping me afford rent and all that stuff. So, thank you. Yeah. You think you know that guy on the wall there? Which guy there? Oh, Dilopho Masnaris. Yes, indeed. This is my Dilophosaurus. Whoa. 3D print. Ooh. I need to get some stronger magnets to hold on that lower jaw. Yowza. But yeah. Welcome, Dilopho. It is good to have you here. How are things? Welcome everybody. We're gonna have a fun stream today, and you know what we should start off with? Yesterday, I learned about a new game called Metazua. There we go. It's kind of like Wordle, if you're familiar with that. You know, Wordle score. You've seen this, right? Wordle. It's kind of like that, but for animal taxonomy. So, I am going to attempt to figure out what the animal of the day is. Glad I remembered. We almost forgot. Let's start it. We've got 20 guesses to try and figure it out. And we know it's some kind of animal. And so I'm gonna guess. I'm sure there's like a statistically ideal best guess, but I'm gonna guess Lungfish isn't one of them. Let's try, yeah, let's try flamingo, first of all. Ooh. Interesting.
That's how dinosaurs are. Unpredictable.
Crazy Nut DK, thank you so much for the 26 months of support. I really appreciate that. Welcome back. It's good to have you here, Crazy Nut. So, we know that this critter is a deuterostome, and that is the most recent common ancestor between our mystery critter and a flamingo. So let's use our tree of life here to kind of help us out. Use this as a, you know, a teaching moment here. So this is all life on Earth. Let's go to the deuterostomes. These are creatures that have mouths. These are animals with mouths. Deuterostomes. So this includes all of the vertebrate animals, and the fishes, and echinoderms, like sea urchins, and also sea squirts and tunicates and stuff like that. Deuterostomes. I think it includes sea squirts. But yeah, so it's not a vertebrate. Let's try sponge. Sea sponge. Let's try that. Oh, wait. Yeah, sea sponges are deuterostomes, I believe. Right? Let's double check. No? They're not deuterostomes? Shoot. Let's jump back to deuterostomes there. Well, let's try an urchin. Ooh, boy, this is gonna be tricky. Cheating on stream? I'm not cheating, Displacer. We're not cheating. It's not just a blind guessing game. You gotta figure it out bit by bit, you know? Eleutherozoa. Interesting. So this is the clade here. A proposed subphylum of echinoderms. So we did get it right. It is an echinoderm, like a sea urchin. Echinoderms are sea stars, sea urchins, sea cucumbers, I think. But let's try starfish. Oh, holy cow! Beautiful. All right. Holy moly. We got that in how many guesses? That is pretty excellent. Well. Not too shabby. Yeah. That's excellent. That's excellent. Yes, crinoids are also echinoderms. Why don't we, let's see if we can find a little video on echinoderms real quick. We've got a nice PBS Eons video. Let's take a look at that, shall we?
More than 500 million years ago, a small plated animal not even an inch long sat on the seafloor of what's now Spain. It was kind of oval-shaped and covered in upward-pointing spines.
If we're getting it one tomorrow, there you go, Lenina.
Tino imbricata, and it's one of the oldest echinoderms that we've found. This group includes animals like starfishes,
Yep, these are echinoderms.
and sea urchins.
And also crinoids, as Diagonal was pointing out. Yes, indeed, crinoids are also echinoderms. Crinoids are not very common nowadays, but they are still around. Echinoderms have got what we call radial symmetry. So rather than having bilateral symmetry like you and me, where like if you were to you know, if you were to stand next to a mirror, stand with a mirror, like, going down your sagittal plane like that, you know, it would almost look like you. Because if you draw a line down the middle of you, down the middle of your head, down the middle of your nose, and etc., we're supposed to be pretty much identical both sides like that. It's called bilateral symmetry. Both sides have symmetry. With echinoderms, they've got radial symmetry. So it's usually like, well, not usually. Sometimes it's 5 like this. So sea stars have got 5 arms. You like basically draw a dot in the very middle, and then all those 5 sides are going to be identical. Does that make sense? Yeah, tell my moles/freckles that. Yeah, there you go, Lenina. We are more interesting than that. We're more complex, but largely speaking, you look at a human skeleton, and we're going to be pretty much identical on both sides. At least that's the idea. There's going to be little variations. There's going to be little, you know, little tweaks here and there, but for the most part, we are bilaterally symmetrical. Yeah, and there you go, Mayorspace. Buy lateral symmetry today. Buy one, get one half off. There you go, Mayorspace. Yeah. Anyway, echinoderm is well known for having radial symmetry.
And scientists know that it was an echinoderm based on the material that made up its internal skeleton, a calcium carbonate matrix called stereome, which is a feature shared by all of the members of this group. But today's adult echinoderms all share another special characteristic. They have radial symmetry, with a mouth at their center and their other body structures repeating around it in sets of 5, like spokes on a wheel.
Oh, is it always in sets of 5? I didn't know that. I wanted to say that, but I'm like, no, that can't be true. They can't all be divisible by 5.
Yes, even sea cucumbers. Except Tino imbricata didn't have radial symmetry. It had right-left bilateral symmetry, like us, where the left half mirrors the right half, and its mouth faced upward at one end of its body. So how did the ancient ancestors...
Diagonal says some have additional arms, like I've seen crinoids with more than 5, but usually in 5s. Interesting.
Of starfish go from having bilateral symmetry to having radial symmetry. And how did the starfish get its arms?
Oh, I love these videos. And like to me, they show why paleontology is so important. You know, paleontology helps answer the why of a lot of different things in biology. When you can look at the ancient past and say, this is how things used to be, this is how things came to be, that's really valuable, you know? Yeah, that is a very chubby starfish there, Steely Dan. I just want to squeeze it.
Ontogeny.
Well, it might have been caused by a series of changes in the environment.
Embryos are bilateral. Interesting, Diagonal.
Adapt
Cool.
from living life face up to living it face down. The story of echinoderms might actually go back a little farther than Tino imbricata to a 555-million-year-old fossil.
Interesting,
found
Alex
in
Fiction.
Australia.
Okay.
It's named Arkarua, and it's an impression that shows what
Neverwinter.
appears to
Their arms
be
can branch out.
repeating sections around a central axis. But there's no evidence that it had
Fish are made of tridunes. What? Science streams? Anyway, it's good to see you, Belinda. I hope you're doing well.
stereome.
Didn't you watch this video on your channel when you were talking about sea star development and talking about how a sea star would wear pants? Did you watch this same video? Yeah. I'm glad you're doing well, Willin. Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. Yeah.
The stuff that makes up the internal skeleton of all echinoderms, so it could have just been another round animal like a jellyfish or a sponge. This makes Tino imbricata one of the first for sure echinoderms. It had no arms and
they identified recently there are no leg parts to a starfish based on sequencing similarities. That makes a lot of sense, Belen. It does, yeah. Yeah. I love... It's clear that they uploaded these closed captions rather than letting YouTube's algorithm try and figure them out. This is not auto-closed captioned. They just uploaded the script here because Tino imbricata There's no way that the auto closed caption would be able to get that right.
Tino imbricata, one of the first for sure echinoderms. It had no arms and was a so-called basket feeder, taking water into
There you go,
and
Tony's
out
my
of
baby.
its upward-facing mouth and filtering out suspended bits of organic stuff with a basket-shaped structure. In contrast, most modern starfishes are active predators that use their chunky arms to explore the seafloor for food. Each arm can bend and curl thanks to supportive plates made of stereome and special connective tissues that can go soft or stiff. And rows of hydraulic tube feet found along canals on the underside of each arm help living starfishes move around and bring food to their mouths. So a starfish's arms are essential to its mobile seafloor cruising way of life. And yet the first echinoderms had no arms, not just Tino imbricata, but other species from the Cambrian period too. They were all bilaterally symmetrical basket feeders with their upward-facing mouths positioned at one end of their bodies.
And that's interesting to think about, that radial symmetry that echinoderms have today, that's a derived feature. So that's something special that they had to evolve. Bilateral symmetry is what we call primitive or basal condition. That's the one that animals started off with, and we still have that. We haven't evolved some sort of crazy other symmetry like sea stars have. That's neat to think about, right? Yeah. And Hogan, be careful with that. Our shared ancestor with them had no brains either. Brains evolved after the split between echinoderms and chordates. Interesting, Diagonal. Let's look at that real quick. Here we go. We were talking about deuterostomes earlier. So this is the clade that is shared between us. That's a lemur. That's pretty darn close to us. It's a prosimian. Yeah, urchins. Urchins are also echinoderms. So we get starfish and more right there. See, I was taught back in like the 1990s that starfish is not the proper term. You should call them sea stars. So I've always called them sea stars since then, and now I see in places like this starfish. And our host in the video, she said starfish as well. So maybe starfish is actually okay. Diagonal, what do you think about that? I'm sure you know more about echinodermata than I do. Yeah. Or ambulacraria? There's echinodermata. Okay. Nice. So anyway, in that basal deuterostome, I guess it didn't have a brain. That's interesting. So brains are a chordate feature, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I guess.
Making my way downtown, walking fast, faces pass and I'm homebound.
The other bell, thank you for the follow. Oh, great Sag, thank you.
And this is a dinosaur too.
The first one wasn't a dinosaur, that was a Dimetrodon, a synapsid. Great Sag, thank you so much for the 4 months of support. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Great Sag, for keeping me here on the air. And the other bell, thank you for following. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's really good to have you here. Where were we? Talking about, yeah. So I guess in order to have a brain, you kind of have to have a brain in the way that we're used to thinking of, where it's at the end of a spinal cord. You kind of have to have a spinal cord or a notochord. And that's a chordate feature. That's what defines chordates, and that's actually where the chord part of chordate comes from. Yeah, nice.
The first radially symmetrical echinoderm known from the fossil record is Camptostroma, which shows up between 516 and 513 million years ago in Pennsylvania. It had the 5-part symmetry common to all modern echinoderms, and Camptostroma was paving the way for the echinoderms we see today. It shared a common ancestor with a group called the Blastozoans, which evolved many variations on a body plan built around 5 repeating parts. They fed by filtering out suspended food from the water column and channeling it through upward-facing feeding grooves to their mouths. But why did some echinoderms become radially symmetric and develop this new body plan plan in the first place? Why questions are tough to answer in paleontology, but it might be that basically an animal with bilateral symmetry is equipped to move in one direction, often leading with its head. If you're just gonna sit still, capture food, and not move around, the radial body plan may help you better access food in 360 degrees. So, okay, this body plan
Makes
might
sense.
have some advantages, but why 5-part radial symmetry specifically? Why not some other number? It's still an open question, but there's a hypothesis that 5 parts instead of any other number gives you the strongest possible arrangement of the plates that give structure to echinoderms. And how about arms, which showed up in some blastozoans? One of these groups, called eocrinoids, had a bunch of spaghetti-like feeding arms spreading out around an upward-facing mouth. Eocrinoids first appeared in the fossil record roughly 517 million years ago. They became super common during the Cambrian, so something about their body plan was working. Early Cambrian eocrinoids stuck lightly to the sediment or just rested on it while suspension feeding. But by the late Cambrian, they attached to new, harder substrates, and some used root-like holdfasts. For example, like an
Shoot, what is it called? I used to know all of these different terms. Like the different anatomical terms in crinoids. I had a really good invertebrate paleontology professor in undergrad, Jim Schmidt. And I think when I moved from Montana, I lost all my notes from that. But man, that would have been a valuable resource to have. Holy cow.
Oides buried part of itself in a burrow and may have used fibers made of collagen to anchor itself to the substrate. And it's that period of time, called the Cambrian substrate revolution, that may have driven them and other blastozoans to adapt. As burrowing animals evolved, the ocean bottom was becoming a lot softer, and
Tony
water
Martin talks
near
about
the
this in
seafloor
his
became
book.
more murky with sediment being churned up. Some eocrinoids, like Gogaya, developed stem-like stalks that raised their arms higher into the water column further from the sediment. Heading into the Ordovician period around 485 million years ago, eocrinoids diversified into thousands of forms. Sea levels were high then, and the area north of the equator was almost all ocean. There was an explosion of marine biodiversity of all kinds, including the similar-looking and closely related group, the crinoids, also called sea lilies, which showed up and diversified into many species with different suspension-feeding body types.
So crinoids like this are really, really common as fossils. You've probably seen them before. In fact, I really need to 3D print some crinoid fossils. That would be really cool. There's a really beautiful one right there, with an intact, called the calyx, I think is like the base of the lily part of the sea lily. Yeah, they are gorgeous animals. And yes, they are animals. They might look superficially plant-like, but like corals, they are animals. And it is the calyx, thank you. Neverwinterful, yeah. Yeah. Can I find a crinoid to print? On Sketchfab, maybe? Switch to downloadable. That one right there is printable, very cool. Or downloadable, nice. Oh, that's cool too. That's gotta cost money though, right? This is a trilobite. Sorry, I'm getting distracted from the crinoids. But, oh, very cool. No, that is, Here, I'm gonna download that right now. That's really neat. Oof. Formats are a little wonky, but I think I can convert from GLTF. Yeah. And then we've got this beautiful crinoid right here, too. That will be neat to print. So let's grab that one, and luckily... OBJ format is ideal. That or STL doesn't require any conversion for me. Good stuff. Good stuff. Woodocrinus is the genus name of this guy. Yeah, so in life, would have looked something like this. Really neat. And there are still crinoids around today. They tend to live in deeper environments. But there's one there. Oh, they live in both shallow water and in depths as great as 9,000 meters. That's 30,000 feet. Holy cow. Yeah. Holdfast is what the thing was called. And the columnals, little segments that make up the stalk. The arboreal cup, arms, pinnules, crown, and stalk. Yeah. They are pretty. This reminds me of the cycad that I have on my desk, which is, of course, a plant. Crinoids are animals. But yeah, yeah. Very cool. Denny hunts animals to print. Yeah, there you go, Dr. Irrefutable. So crinoids.
Crinoids became the
cool
most
critters.
abundant echinoderms of the Ordovician, and some were the ancestors of today's stalkless feather stars and stalked sea lilies. If anything, the eocrinoids and crinoids with stalks were moving away from the low-profile body plan of a starfish. So what happened? Where did the starfishes come from? Well, there's a fossil gap between the early stalked echinoderms and the forms that look like today's starfish.
There's a what?
A fossil gap between the...
Gentlemen, I will not tolerate a fossil gap. We're always trying to fill those as paleontologists, you know? It's a matter of national security.
Early stalked echinoderms and the forms that look like today's starfish. And a study published in early 2021 could provide some clues about what happened in the gap. It looks like some of the crinoids might have taken a different approach to feeding. Instead of staying face up suspension feeders, they went face down. A fossil found in Morocco and dated to 480 million years ago is the most primitive starfish-like
There you go, Neverwinter. Yeah, yeah.
And it kind of looked like a flipped over stalkless sea lily. Cantabrigiaster had the thick arms of a starfish, but like sea lilies, lacked small hard plates along the edges of its arms. And judging from the orientation of its arm canals and tube feet, Cantabrigiaster fed face down on the sediment. So the first starfish may have originated from a sea lily that face planted, putting its mouth down on the seafloor. And
Very
it might have
cool.
been pressure to find a new feeding niche that drove this switch from face up to face down, since the Ordovician witnessed an explosion of suspension feeding, with lots of competition for floating bits of food. Plankton diversified, followed by a host of suspension feeders, like certain types of brachiopods, rugose corals, and bryozoans. The Ordovician period also saw the advent of more active suspension.
Look at this crazy critter. This is a, radio... it's related to like Anomalocaris and critters like that, and Lagania. Radiodont? Is it a radiodont? Let's see.
Feeders, like the giant filter-feeding Anomalocarid, a Gyrocassus.
Yeah, a Gyrocassus. So, Anomalocaris is a radiodont. There we go. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. You know Anomalocaris. Everybody knows and loves Anomalocaris. Yeah. These guys are cool, though. Holy cow.
And while it's impossible to know why...
And Marcy Walks Dogs says, it's breaking my brain in a really good way that this stuff actually existed. Holy cow, yeah. The history of life on Earth is rich and varied and just full of all kinds of really wild critters. All kinds of different organisms have inhabited this planet. And I think it enriches our daily lives just to know about that, to have some sense of the history of life on Earth. It adds just a little bit extra wonder and amazement and joy to my day. Not a little, a lot. Hopefully it does the same for you too. Understanding the different forms that life has taken on our planet over hundreds of millions of years, billions of years, honestly. There's a special kind of joyous wonder, I think, that comes along with that. And it's my privilege to share that with you, so I'm glad you're here.
Cantabrigiaster developed its adaptation.
See, there you go, Alex
ecological niche.
Let's look at that critter real quick too. Agirocassus. There we go. What a neat, weird critter. This big filter feeding thing. It kind of reminds me of like a basking shark. Just cruising through the water, just filtering out stuff to eat, like a basking shark or like a paddlefish, maybe. Yeah, there's that same image that we were just looking at. Really cool and weird. Like, what a neat animal. It just... We think of it as being, like, it looks so different from creatures around today. And Mario Lustosa, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. And this is really neat. This is in a stamp? That's a cool stamp. That's a really cool stamp. Looks like a Zeppelin, says Neverwinter. I mean, it is kind of like a sea Zeppelin. It's just kind of drifting along, doing its thing. Man, they got big, too. They got big. Are there any 3D models available for these? Because that would be really cool to have. $39. This is called free 3D. Why does it cost $39? Anyway, artists got to get paid. But a neat creature, right? Super cool and weird. Super cool and weird. Yeah. Looks like an organic spaceship to me. I mean, don't fishes also look kind of like organic spaceships? But I see what you mean. No, I'm not disagreeing, but fish are almost cooler when you think about them that way, too. Yeah. And BKJ says, have you heard avocado toast is not derived from giant ground sloths like everyone thinks? Yeah, BKJ. There's a sloth paleontologist on Twitter who
This is the horizon which marks the extinction of the dinosaurs.
Geo Jim.
Below this level, and out in here, there are dinosaur fossils. Above
Holy
this
cow.
level, on these rocks, there are no dinosaur fossils. So I'm actually standing on the level that marks the extinction of the dinosaurs.
And holy cow, Geo Jim.
2006 and their 8 raiders have stumbled below that level. Let's talk dinosaurs.
Thank you for the raid. I really appreciate that, Geo Jim. How did your stream go? I hope it was excellent. And welcome back to Paleontologizing. Happy holidays to you too, Geo Jim. It's good to have you here. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Speaking of, well, maybe we'll do that tomorrow. I received a gift in the mail. Somebody sent me a rock hammer off of the wish list. I don't know who. They were anonymous on the slip, but I want to make sure that I scan the QR code and send them a thank you note before I show it on stream. But anyway, yeah. And I heard there were dinosaurs here. Well, Geo Jim, this is a radiodont. We were talking about radiodonts briefly. We got off on a whole echinoderm kick. And then somehow we got talking about radiodonts too. Big filter feeding critters from the Paleozoic. But yeah, we will be talking about dinosaurs in snowy environments in a little bit. What were you talking about with regard to dinosaurs, Geo Jim? I want to hear about it. Yeah. Yeah. And you're about to talk about avocados. Oh yeah, yeah. There is like a popular myth that the avocado was spread through giant ground sloth dung. And there's not really any evidence to back that idea up. I don't know where it came from. It may have been literally just the avocado lobby was, like, spreading this idea because it sounded cool. But, yeah. And there you go, Choppy Jenkins. Yeah, a big avocado at it again, yeah. Anyway, radiodonts are super cool. Tommy Plodicus, they are super cool. Anyway, we're going to finish this video, and then we're going to get into, hopefully, talking about dinosaurs in cold climates.
The giant filter-feeding anomalocarid, a gyrocat.
And Diagonal says, if they don't, then we're clueless about how avocados disperse their seeds. I mean, through animals. Yeah, could be through primates. The seeds don't have to be ingested by an animal in order to germinate, especially not avocado pits. But yeah. Is there a link for the sloth thing? Well, shoot. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Yeah, all this stuff. So you just do a Google search for ground sloths did not spread avocado seeds, and then you get the opposite. Love avocados? Thank the giant ground sloths. Yeah. Giant prehistoric ground sloths and avocados, love story. We have sloths to thank for avocados from Ripley's Believe It or Not. Yeah. This idea has really spread far and wide, but let's see. Is this her there? Yeah. There we go. It's her pinned message here. Her pinned tweet. She says, it's that day again, the one where museums post an urban legend about sloth diets and overpriced add-ons to your lunch. So, there's no evidence in the coprolites that sloths ate avocados. The biogeography doesn't match up, and the timing doesn't match up. Just say no to the avocado myth. Yeah. But yeah. But this person says, is there any truth to the megafauna as avocado dispersers idea? I've heard the link between ground sloths and avocados is rocky at best, but I haven't heard anything about gomphotheres or other large animals. And then our sloth paleontologist here says, we haven't extended our research into other taxa yet, but here's an awesome video of a quetzal puking up an avocado pit after lunch. It doesn't have to be megafauna, which is what I was just telling you, right? Yeah. So there's a quetzal, which is a bird. It's not a huge bird. It's not the size of a ground sloth or anything. Yeah, pretty cool. Anyway. So yeah. Is there more on this? How did this myth even start? And, let's see. Dr. Robert McAfee and I had a poster on the subject at SVP last year. That's the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology meeting. I'm a member of SVP myself. We're hoping to publish soon. The myth started as a musing and an essay and blew up from there. Interesting. This is super cool. Yeah. Anyway, here is a link to this tweet thread if you'd like to see. There you go. Another person maybe we should bring on as a guest. So many possibilities for paleontologist guests on this channel. Dinosaurs, not sloths, spread avocado seeds. Well, birds do, yeah. And there were giant sloths in Florida, all over North America and South America too, Neverwinter. Yeah. Here in California, there were ground sloths all over the place. Yeah, and Golganak.
Golganak gifted a tier 1 sub to Trappy.
I appreciate that, Golganak. Thank you for gifting Trappy there.
Gift subs in the channel.
Holy cow, that's a lot of gift subs, Golganak. Holy moly. I appreciate you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Over 40. Yeah, there you go, Murph. Ugly sweater. Yes, May.
Dinosaurs.
We'll get to that in a bit.
Creatures you might think of as inhabiting another planet.
Well.
The kind you dream of in a bad nightmare.
Jerez.
Wow, 30 months. A child can already speak at that age.
That's true, Jerez, and that's almost a full year, isn't it? Thank you so much for the 30 months of support. That really is a long time. Thank you earnestly for your continued support, Jerez. It means a lot to me. Anyway, yeah. And there you go, Diagonal. Yes, sloths are not originally native to North America. They, during Gabi, the Great American Biotic Interchange, they moved up into North America. Yeah. Anyway, good stuff. Back to... Let's finish this up with the echinoderms, and then we'll get into dinosaurs in cold climates.
Passus. And while it's impossible to know why Cantabrigiaster developed its adaptations, its ecological niche of feeding on bits from the seafloor might have reduced competition with active filter feeders. It also may have opened up the possibility of using its tube feet for moving around. Modern starfishes move using their tube feet in a way that's similar to what crinoids do to waft food into their mouths. But we still need more fossil evidence to help us figure out whether Cantabrigiaster really was a transitional animal between crinoids and sea stars or not. Either way, the Paleozoic era continued to be dominated by the crinoids and other echinoderms. And once they developed their multi-armed face-down body plan, starfish had a foot in the door. Or maybe an arm in the door? The Paleozoic came to a dramatic end about 252 million years ago with a mass extinction event. Research suggests that this dying off was caused by global warming and a serious decrease in the ability of ocean water to hold oxygen. Echinoderms were hit hard and whole groups went extinct. But starfish and their skinny armed cousins, the brittle stars, made it through, along with a few crinoids, sea cucumbers, and sea urchins, the groups we still see today. Paleontologists wonder whether the ability to move around might have helped starfishes fare better than the stationary crinoids did. Beginning about 240 million years ago and continuing through the late Triassic and Jurassic periods, starfishes diversified rapidly to become among the most common echinoderms, second only to the brittle stars. Today, starfishes and brittle stars are the most successful groups of echinoderms in terms of abundance, diversity, and geographic distribution. Together, they contain around 4,000 known species. And crinoids are still around too, but their species number in the 600s, in contrast to the 6,000 known species that have lived throughout Earth's history. So as odd as the starfish body plan seems, something about it was successful. From their ancient bilateral ancestors to the radial crinoids with their upward-facing arms to the predatory downward-facing starfish. And their arms play a whole range of roles, from feeding to sensing their environments, taking in oxygen, and housing some of their vital organs. The evolutionary past of starfishes from bilateral to radial animals is also echoed in their development. All modern echinoderms start their lives as swimming larvae with bilateral symmetry, and then settle down on the substrate to transform. The left side grows into 5 parts, while the right side gets absorbed, and we end up with an adult radial echinoderm. The
Very
story of how the
interesting.
starfish got its arms reminds us that even animals that might be familiar to us today can have incredibly deep histories, ones that stretch back almost 500 million years. And their ancient ancestors wouldn't have seemed familiar to us at all.
Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Here's a link to this video right here. There you go. Our echinoderm tangent there. Now with that being done, let's talk about dinosaurs in the snow. First off, I want to share with you this image. Oh man, this makes me happy. I gotta post this to social media. But this is a photo of a photo that I took back in June when I was visiting the Prehistoric Museum in Price, Utah, at the College of Eastern Utah. But the caption says, "Concrete Diplodocus covered in snow." So this was a concrete cast of Dippy the Diplodocus. Some of you are familiar with Dippy already, especially if you're from the UK. The UK loves Dippy. Holy cow. But there used to be a concrete Dippy Diplodocus outside in Price, Utah. I think it's in Price. This may have been in Vernal, Utah. But anyway, it's in Vernal now. And I just love this, all covered with snow like this. Let's put some, you know, caption, some text up here. Season's greetings. Be a wonderful holiday card. I love it. I love it. So, dinosaurs in the snow. Did dinosaurs live in the snow? A lot of them did. And what is this? Did dinosaurs see snow? There's something called Dangerville. Let's take a look at this. This is not what I was intending to look at right now, but let's have a look.
Ah, Christmas, a time of happiness, where we all come together, and sometimes, just sometimes, the weather might be perfect enough for it to snow. We all love the snow. It's fun to play in, throw snowballs.
I, for one, am really glad I don't live in a place where it snows anymore. I lived in Montana for the better part of a decade. Snow was really nice for the first couple days, and then it very quickly overstays its welcome.
Make snow angels and snowmen, but it is very cold. Birds can survive the weather with their array of feathers that trap pockets of air all around their bodies, insulating them against the harsh temperatures of the environment. But what about their ancestors, the dinosaurs? Did they ever see snow? And if so, what did they do to protect themselves against the elements? Well, let's find out. I'm your host, Alistair, and welcome to Dangerville.
So Dilophosaurus probably would not have seen snow, at least the ones that we know of from Arizona. I don't think it would have snowed there.
Welcome back. When we think of dinosaurs, we typically imagine lumbering beasts patrolling wide spans of Cretaceous terrain. But in reality, there was many different climates across the world. Over 65 million years ago, the world was very different to what we see today. Antarctica, a region which we now look at as a inhospitable, desolate, cold wasteland, was actually...
You know, maybe we'll take a look at this in a little bit, because this is going to be a nice summary, maybe?
Tradoon.
What I wanted to show you was, This right here, an old Paleo World episode. And that I think will be a nice segue into some of these other videos. I'll show you some clips from Prehistoric Planet and stuff like that too. These will all be nice kind of springboards for discussion here as we talk about dinosaurs and Mesozoic climate and adaptations for living in cold environments. Invisible dimensions, that's probably part of it. Yeah.
Few living things that can survive the bitter cold and permanent darkness of a polar winter. Yet it is not the first predator to adapt to life in the Arctic.
Certainly not.
In Alaska, a new discovery is proving what no one thought possible. 70 million years ago, dinosaurs ruled the frozen north.
It's true. I don't know if I've ever seen this episode of Paleo World before. But it popped up the other day in a search, so we're watching it. This is cool. Yeah. Summer. Go Beats International. Oh no. And Cooking Fat says, I never knew about cold weather dinosaurs. It's weird how they called this Jurassica in the UK. It was called Paleo World here in the States. But, yeah. Cold weather dinosaurs? Yes, indeed. Cooking Fat. Dinosaurs lived all over our planet Earth, on all 7 continents, including Antarctica, and way up in the Arctic Circle as well. And even when Earth's climate was warmer during the Mesozoic, there still would have been ice and snow at times. Let's talk about it. There you go, Phoenix the archaeologist. This is a good point. Yeah.
In the Arctic, for 10 months of the year, cold reigns supreme. For 3 of those months, the sun disappears entirely below the horizon.
How's the volume, by the way? Can you hear it okay?
Plunge to minus 45 degrees centigrade. Was this frozen wasteland home to the dinosaurs? One man is risking life and limb to prove it. Roland Gangloff of the University of Alaska Fairbanks has traveled hundreds of kilometers of the Arctic Circle to the oil terminal at Dead Horse.
What a pleasant name for a town. Oh, yeah. Me and the family, we're going to go vacation up at Dead Horse. I hear it's beautiful this time of year. Oh, boy.
The last human settlement between here and the North
No
Pole.
flies.
Dead Horse marks the
I think
end
there are a
of the
ton of flies, though,
Trans-Alaska
Skolben.
Highway. But it is not the end of Gangloff's journey. A 320-kilometer flight over frozen tundra known as Alaska's Arctic Slope will take him to where few have gone before. Gangloff is in a race
Interesting
against
cooking
time.
fan. Huh. There you go, real.
Alaska is a land of
Go,
extremes.
Logan.
Here, for only 8 weeks of the year, temperatures reach above freezing and the ice melts, turning the top few centimeters of tundra into a lush carpet of green.
And there's just biting flies everywhere, right?
And
Mosquitoes?
a breeding ground for millions of hungry mosquitoes that will soon
Oof.
hatch and begin their search for blood they can feed on.
Yeah.
Gangloff's final destination is a 16-kilometer stretch of the Colville River. A bleak strip of sand in the middle of the river, aptly named Poverty Bar, will be home for the next 5 weeks.
Another pleasant name.
Comforts are few. 2 days away by boat is the freezing Arctic Ocean, and the weather can still turn foul.
Yeah, that looks like a dangerous place to camp, honestly. I mean, maybe they're not going to have a lot of precipitation raising these water levels, but this is a floodplain here. You know, this was scoured out by the flow of water. This seems like a dangerous place to set up camp, but I don't know. This is a long time ago. I think they were fine.
And the weather can still turn foul. In Alaska, the summer sun never sets. Because the digging season is short, Gangloff and his team will put in 14-hour days to hunt for dinosaurs.
Wow.
Yeah, but if you look at the premaxillary teeth, many times they'll...
At any moment, freezing winds and early snows could force them off Poverty
That's where they'll
Bar.
find stuff. You don't have to put camp on the site. At least the way that it works for us usually, Phoenix, is that when we as dinosaur paleontologists are out digging, sometimes our camp might be miles away from the actual fossil sites because, well, you might just might not have a suitable place to set up camp near where the actual fossil sites are. And sometimes you've got a number of different fossil sites with different parts of your crew going out to different sites during the day. So you want a more centralized location for camp. But
Layers of clothing and hot food are a necessity to fend off the chill. 30 years ago, the possibility that dinosaurs could survive the harsh brutality of the Arctic was inconceivable. Most had been found in what were once lush tropical climates.
Hey, Miss Yvette, how you doing? See my wreath there.
But in 1961, Robert Liscombe, a geologist prospecting for oil, stumbled upon these bones, but did not recognize them. 2 decades later, word finally spread that for the first time, dinosaurs had been discovered above the Arctic Circle.
Very cool.
In 1987, Gangloff followed Liscombe's trail to a bend in the Colville River called Ocean Point. Here,
Starlink
in these
there?
bluffs,
I don't know, real men
layers of
beards.
sediment have been exposed dating back to the Mesozoic era, the age of the dinosaurs.
The latitude is probably too high for Starlink, I'm guessing.
Then, this was a great river delta fed by melting snows from nearby mountains. By the Cretaceous, 75 million years ago, tons of mud and sand had been washed into the delta. Eventually, the sediment turned to stone, and with it, the first fragmentary evidence that dinosaurs had lived here. Imagine the skies clear, except for the flare of the northern lights. The temperature drops to the 20s. A thirsty predator stops on the frozen bank of the river to drink.
Some Greg Paul illustrations here.
It uses its horny beak to break the ice.
An interesting phoenix. Okay.
Hard to
cool.
believe? Roland hopes to find its bones, but the job will not be easy. In Alaska, the ground is frozen and filled with chunks of ice called lenses.
Diamonds. We're rich.
Clinging to the face of the bluff, the team tediously picks away at the rock to locate the layers that might contain fossils. But with little luck.
See the shiny layer there? That's where we're going down to.
So they're not prospecting, they're just
The
digging?
previous winter had been unusually mild. Excessive meltwater had eroded the surface, sending tons of earth cascading down the cliff.
Goodness, so I see what's going on here. They have a previously established site, and they're just trying to remove overburden to get down to the bone layer again. Huh.
The only option now is to start at the top.
Yep, that's how it works. This is what we
After
call
2 days of
overburden,
hard
doing
labor,
overburden.
The team finally uncovers the layer they were looking for.
Yep.
They had battled cold, rain, and the incessant mosquitoes for a payoff that looks like a few unspectacular scraps.
And you're right, Real Men Grow Beards. It's weird they didn't change the unit of temperature in the script for the British audience. Having temperature in the 20s. 20 Celsius is pretty nice, isn't it? Yeah, 20 Fahrenheit. So that's below the freezing temperature of water. 20 Fahrenheit. Yeah. And Hogan, overburden can be fun
Some
sometimes,
arm
yeah.
bones.
Ooh.
And the fragments of a backbone.
Yeah, vertebral centrum
We're
right
looking
there.
at a typical exposure of the Liscombe bone bed. We have an ice lens that runs along the back of the quarry here. We have another ice lens in the front that's just melted. And they're not only cutting through the bones.
Mosquitoes in the Arctic Circle everywhere, Slumberless,
you can actually
everywhere.
see that the rib has been broken apart and then moved apart as well.
It took Roland's trained eye to recognize what creature these bones belonged to.
It's like a
It
hadrosaur.
turned out to be a duck-billed hadrosaur called Edmontosaurus.
Yep.
The duck-bills were the most abundant dinosaurs in North America. Though larger than elephants, these two-legged plant-eaters were slow and docile.
It's not as awesome for paleo stuff,
To protect
Phoenix,
themselves
unfortunately.
from predators, they roamed the continent in vast herds, grazing on the lush tropical forests of the Cretaceous.
So yeah, Edmontosaurus, I can show you some better illustrations of this critter, more modern ones. There we go. Edmontosaurus, your classic duck-billed dinosaur. They got big too. Edmontosaurus annectens, this species here from the Hell Creek Formation and from the Lance Formation, it got bigger than T-Rex. It's a sizable animal. Edmontosaurus, named after Edmonton in Alberta, Canada. Yeah. And the coloring is just a guess for these guys, yeah. Yeah. But we do have a pretty good sense for, like, where the flesh actually was positioned on the bones. Because we actually have mummified specimens of Edmontosaurus. So what you're seeing here, everything from the amount of flesh on different parts of the body to the actual texture of the skin, that's supported by fossil evidence, which is really neat. Yeah. And always green. Well, this is supposed to be a female in this case. The males look different in this game, Saurian, like that. Yeah. And that's a neat coloration there. But yeah, and there's Edmontosaurus regalis. We actually know that this animal had a fleshy crest on its head. Whoops. There we go. We used to think of these as being like flat-headed duck-billed dinosaurs, but that's just because the fleshy crest had decomposed in most of these specimens. But one that actually has that intact was found a number of years ago. This would have been... Shoot, I'm not sure what year. Uh, 2022? No, it's earlier than that. But yeah. That's what we call a mummified specimen. I've actually dug up a hadrosaur mummy, or at least the arm of a hadrosaur mummy. It still had skin on the arm, which is really cool. Hey, Lordy, how you doing? Welcome. It's good to have you here. Thank you again for the fondue and everything last night. That was pretty awesome. I had a ton of fun. And I know chat did too, so thanks for putting that on, Lordy. I know that's a lot of work. Thank you for doing that. I'm trying to find... Maybe there isn't a video of this. Shoot. Oh, no, there it is. Yeah. Excellent. 6 months of work in 60 seconds. This is a hadrosaur arm that I collected with Liz Friedman Fowler back in 2017. It was such a pain getting this block knocked off of the surrounding sandstone, but we got it. And yeah. Beautiful specimen, and it's even got preserved skin on it, which is super cool. That's Liz working on it. This is before they had a full-time preparator at the museum, I think. Yeah. Pretty awesome. So this is the right forelimb, the right arm of this critter. Very cool, and there's still skin around the pinky finger there. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Yeah. Anyway, T-Matrix, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Spitfire miniatures. More of those coming in the future? Yeah, Spitfire, absolutely. Axman says, so is a mummy of a dinosaur not mineralized? This actually contains the original... No, it's definitely mineralized, yeah. Dinosaur mummies are when part of the skin and flesh permineralizes and gets fossilized. Yeah. So it's different from, like, finding soft tissue within the bones. We're not talking about the original organic material so much. Like, most of the organic stuff has been replaced by minerals in this case. If that makes sense. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. And how does fossilization differ from mummification? Asked Rousey. It's not a silly question at all. No, that's an excellent question. Shoot. Oh, and I should give you a link to this. This is on Denver Fowler's YouTube. This is my old crew chief. Yeah. And what is a dino mummy? Well, take a look at this. And this is from National Geographic, so I'll probably have to flip it so YouTube doesn't freak out when we upload the VOD later. Yeah. And,
You're not doing so badly yourself for a paleontologist.
Kawhi Shelley, thank you for the follow. And for the kind words. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. Thanks for clicking that follow button. Feitzer says, hey, Danny, a museum near me has the skull of a Triceratops. Very cool. They named the skull Jason after the person who found it. And they found it in the Hell Creek Formation. Did you possibly work with somebody named Jason when you were in the Hell Creek Formation? I've worked with a couple of different Jasons, none of whom found a Triceratops. Yeah. Would you mind sharing which museum it was that you saw this? I'm trying to think of... Yeah. I don't think any of those Jasons ever found a Triceratops skull. I've mostly worked with Museum of the Rockies, the Badlands Dinosaur Museum, and then the Utah Geological Survey. But, yeah. Time-lapse fossil prep videos are very cool, everyone. They really are. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, Pfizer. I've found a number of Triceratops myself, too. They're much more common than you might imagine. Anyway, let's get back to what is a dinosaur mummy? Yeah. And Pfizer, yeah, you can whisper it to me. Yeah.
A summer day in 1999. High school sophomore Tyler Leeson is out on one of his routine prospecting.
We just saw Tyler Leeson in a video the other day.
He's been hunting fossils on his family land since he was practically a toddler.
Hey, Vampire, welcome.
He has already headed 20 dinosaur excavations. But nothing could prepare him for what he finds protruding from the rocky hillside.
I followed the bone fragments up the little gully, and I saw 2 spinal bones.
Man, he's so young here.
Nothing unusual there. Well-preserved dinosaur bones are scattered all over Hell Creek. These were different.
I knocked off a little piece of what I thought was just sandstone, and I looked at it, and it had a weird pattern to it. And so I brought the piece of sandstone back to the lab.
Skin.
And after hours and hours of slowly brushing it, the scales started to appear.
Leeson held in his hands the scaly skin of an animal that had been extinct for 65 million years. Even more intriguing, the skin retained its 3D shape.
The skin hadn't collapsed in around the bone. And at that point, I knew that we had a 3D dinosaur mummy. I was absolutely thrilled.
Pretty cool.
They dubbed the amazing find Dakota, and the excavation goes into full swing.
When you first lay eyes upon such a remarkable specimen, you are absolutely gobsmacked. How can you not be excited? It's an incredible find.
The fossil is a hadrosaur, a 40-foot, 3.5-ton herbivore.
This is also Edmontosaurus,
landscape of the lake
like the one in Alaska. That's why we're talking about these guys.
Though they were one of T-Rex's favorite meals, they were also one of the most successful dinosaurs of the time. More
yeah, they're everywhere.
Fossils had been found than any other dinosaur. But this one is very special, if not in life, then in death. Rather than just fossilized bones and teeth,
here we go.
Tissues and organs somehow survived across the eons.
Dinosaur fossils are usually isolated bones. Occasionally we're very lucky and get a partial skeleton, and exceptional circumstances we get a complete skeleton, articulated. That is the absolute 10 out of 10 for a dinosaur. Dinosaur mummies come in off the scale. These are so rare.
They're not that rare for hadrosaurs, honestly.
And so brimming with scientific promise that even a single dinosaur mummy has the potential to change our understanding of all dinosaurs. From their skeletons, scientists know how big they were, but without tissue and flesh to fill them out, they don't really know how the animals looked. From the size and shape of a dinosaur's leg bones, scientists have estimated how these animals moved. But without muscles, they can't know how fast. By comparing
that's a really
bones
goofy
of some
looking
animals with
run there.
others, we have
Let's look at that again.
By comparing the bones of some animals with others, we have discovered some 300 different species of dinosaurs.
Oh, more than that.
Genes and proteins, we can't say for sure how they came about or what they evolved
These
into.
are goofy
A
block
dinosaur
animations.
mummy with its tissues frozen in time will give researchers the chance to investigate the inner workings of these ancient animals, opening a rare window on how they lived.
It is quite fair to say that our dinosaur mummy makes many other dinosaurs look like roadkill. Simply because the evidence we're getting from our creature is so complete compared to the disjointed sort of skeletons that we're usually
Did
having
they
to
ever even publish on this?
Scientists experiment on Dakota's home turf in order to establish the environment in which it died. After reviewing this data, along with the sediments that comprise the mummy, scientists think that the animal died in or near a body of water, submerged quickly enough to escape scavengers and the nastiest of microbes, and was covered over and compressed by a continuous supply of sediment.
Yep. So it got buried.
A very rare event. But by understanding that event, keying into the position in the environmental conditions which would have created such a creature, if we can nail that down, this could be a key to unlocking a box full of dinosaur mummies.
Yeah, anyway, you get the idea. Is there a reason why duck-billed dinosaurs, like Edmontosaurus, are more commonly preserved as mummies than other dinosaurs? Like, for instance, Triceratops? Triceratops is more common in general, but Triceratops skin is very rare. It could have something to do with the... I guess the habitats in which these different animals lived, like what was their preferred surroundings? Maybe hadrosaurs like to live in drier environments, and ceratopsians like Triceratops preferred to live in kind of wetter, swampier environments. That might well be the case. But I suspect it probably has something more to do with their skin. Hadrosaurs like this may have just had tougher skin than ceratopsians. Yeah, duckbills did not live in swamps. If anything, we think that they prefer drier environments than, like, Triceratops. Because in the Upper Hell Creek, as the environment starts to get swampier, you find more and more Triceratops and fewer Edmontosaurus. at least around, you know, Hell Creek State Park and surrounding areas like that. So, yeah. And Murph says, are hadrosaurs in general bigger than Triceratops? No, Murph. Edmontosaurus in particular is humongous. But in general, duck-billed dinosaurs and ceratopsians, well, yeah, maybe hadrosaurs are a little bit bigger than ceratopsians in general, but they're not bigger than Triceratops specifically. Triceratops is huge for a ceratopsian. So Edmontosaurus got to be even bigger than T-Rex here. Oh, that's Shentungosaurus, but Edmontosaurus is about the same size. It gets very, very large. It's about the size of, like, a bus. Enormous. So yeah, there's Tyrannosaurus and Edmontosaurus there. Edmontosaurus annectens. They got to be huge. There you go. Yeah. Their skull alone is like almost 5 feet long when they're full grown. And is he bigger than the California dinosaur? Yes, certainly, Miss Yvette. It's bigger than Augustinolophus. Edmontosaurus is one of the biggest of the duck-billed dinosaurs, possibly the biggest. But yeah, they were big critters. They really were. And is it about numbers? Are there just so many hadrosaurs? Edmontosaurus is not as common as Triceratops is in the Hell Creek Formation, but hadrosaurs in general were pretty common. Yeah. And yeah, this is one of the biggest non-sauropods. It is, Murph. Absolutely. Edmontosaurus and Shentungosaurus might actually be the two dinosaurs that are the biggest that aren't sauropods. Because they got bigger than the biggest theropods, like T-Rex. So, yeah. Yeah, pretty cool to think about. Anyway. Duck-billed dinosaurs. Back to them living in the snow.
Their discovery raised a provocative question. What was an animal with a keen sense of survival doing in a place like Alaska?
Keen sense of survival? What? What does that even mean? Like, oh, I don't have a very keen sense of survival. I'm always dying. What?
Duck-bills were the most common. Their variety was staggering. Some sported weird arrays of...
Lambeosaurus.
The lambeosaur had a tall, hollow crest with a spike pointing backwards.
There you go, Caravan, yeah.
But the biggest show-off was Parasaurolophus.
One of the biggest. Yeah.
Its crowning glory was the most spectacular skull crest of all the duckbills, a great arch of bone that swept back over its head. Why is a mystery.
Yeah, there you go.
But one theory suggests that it may have been a one-man band of hoots and bellows. Plants and trees are vital to understanding the climate 70 million years ago. These are leaves. During an ancient autumn, they fell from a tree, then turned to stone. Their presence indicates that Alaska would have been warmer than it is today. In winter, daytime temperatures could reach 15 degrees centigrade. At night, rarely below freezing. Yet freezing rain and snow were common.
Marinocertus? I don't think so, Diagonal. Somebody can look it up.
Alaska was closer to the North Pole. But 70 million years ago, there were no polar ice caps.
Marinocertus is from Star Trek, right?
Still, the sun would disappear below the horizon for 6 months of the year, and the bleakness of winter descended on the dinosaurs. With little or no food, it is a wonder they survived.
And Namulala says, I think there was an Arctic species of T-Rex. Well, so T-Rex in itself is a species. So you can't have a species of T-Rex because Tyrannosaurus rex is the species. But there was an Arctic species of Tyrannosaur. So like a relative of T-Rex. Yeah. Nenixsaurus, which we'll see in a little bit. Yeah. Oh, genus. Yeah, no worries, Namulala. Yeah. Nenixsaurus. Yeah, which is not based on very much material. In fact, it might just be Albertosaurus. But it is a Tyrannosaur, so you're right about that, yeah. We'll talk about it.
If you were
No, you're good, Namulala.
70
Thanks
to
for being
72
here.
million years ago, you would experience 6 months of very low light to no light at all. And the plants would be experiencing the same thing. So we see the plants losing their leaves, becoming deciduous or casting off their leaves and going into a state of dormancy for half the year.
With no food available for half the year, life would be tenuous, unless the duckbills adopted a modern strategy for survival. Reptiles like alligators burrow into riverbanks and hibernate when food and water are scarce.
Yep, or when it's cold. Yeah.
Some scientists think dinosaurs slept through the winter, using snow for insulation. But until
we don't have
someone
evidence
digs
of
up
that.
a hibernating dinosaur, it is only speculation.
You could also test that hypothesis too. You can, because when animals hibernate, they basically stop growing during that time. A lot of their bodily systems slow down or even kind of shut off to a certain extent. And you would see a signature of that in their bones, like a period of basically no growth. So you could actually, like, look at the growth rings. You could take a histo sample. And we don't see that. We've got no evidence of hibernation in hadrosaurs like this. So yeah. So I disagree with this bit of the narration here.
Using snow for insulation. But until someone digs up a hibernating dinosaur, it is only speculation.
It wouldn't take that. We could be able to tell from the interior of their bones that they were hibernating, and there's no evidence of them hibernating. And Sothi says, any dinosaurs who could hibernate would have survived the extinction event? I mean, there were lots of other animals that probably could have hibernated that did not survive. It wasn't necessarily that dinosaurs went extinct because it got cold. Dinosaurs were actually, it seems, pretty good at dealing with cold temperatures and dealing with seasons of, prolonged darkness and stuff like that. It's more just the food chain collapsing that really did them in. Yeah.
The most logical theory is what thousands of animals do every year. Solitary caribou come together in herds to migrate. In August, having reared their young, they head south to where winter is milder. On the way, they graze constantly to give them energy for the trek.
Miss Yvette says only bears hibernate and some humans. No, there's lots of other animals that will also sleep through the winter. They'll either hibernate or they'll estivate. Maybe that's what you're getting at. Maybe it's only called hibernation in bears. I'm not sure about that. There are other mammals that also will go kind of semi-dormant through the winter. But yeah, there's also reptiles and various fishes will also estivate. Yeah, not all snakes, Pfizer, no. But some snakes definitely do hibernate or estivate or whatever you want to call it. But they basically sleep. They crawl into a burrow and they just hang out for the winter. That's why we have, rattlesnakes in places like Montana. Even though there's snow all over the ground during the winter, rattlesnakes can survive because they curl up in a burrow during the winter. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Naked mole rats, says Miss Yvette. Yeah, maybe, yeah. Do they hibernate? Huh. Lungfishes, famously, can go dormant for a long period of time during droughts. It's really cool to Really cool to think about. But anyway, so if dinosaurs weren't hibernating, if those Edmontosaurus were not hibernating, maybe they're doing like caribou, where they're migrating long distances to maybe sort of avoid the worst of winter's coldness. And also, if they're living in big groups, they're going to have to migrate anyway, just to be able to feed themselves. You can't be a huge herd of animals in one spot and expect that environment to sustain you with more and more plants, especially during the winter. You're going to have to migrate to follow the plants and, you know, find new sources of food. Give your winter ground some time to recover so you can come back and eat there later. Yeah. Do microbes hibernate? Some of them do, Pfizer. They go dormant.
Thundered across the Arctic tundra 70 million years ago. The proof may lie buried in a gully 3,000 kilometers away.
Commercial breaks.
At Canada's Dinosaur Provincial Park in Alberta, bones by the ton lie partially exposed.
Hibernate is winter estivation. Summer brumination is going on. Oh, hibernation is in winter. Estivation is in summer. Brumination is what squamates do. Lizards. Interesting, Murph. Interesting. What is it for lungfish then? What if the drought is not in summer? Would it still be estivation? It probably is. Yeah.
Most belonging to hadrosaurs like those found in Alaska. But here, their bones are not always scattered and broken. Whole skeletons have been found intact. Phil Curry of the Tyrrell Museum is no stranger to duckbills. Over the past 20 years, he and his team have excavated thousands.
Thousands of duckbill elements, maybe not skeletons. It could be individuals though, represented from a few bones. Yeah.
This one is lying with its tail unfurled exactly where it died. Having exposed the beautifully preserved tail, Curry's team set about recovering the rest of the dinosaur. Finding its skull might reveal an unusual feature. Though Edmontosaurus had no showy crest, a balloon on its nose could be inflated to produce sounds and flashes of color.
Maybe, and we actually do now know that it had a fleshy crest. We were talking about this earlier with Edmontosaurus regalis. This critter actually did have a flashy crest. A flashy, fleshy crest. That's why we didn't know about it at first, because we didn't have a specimen with the soft tissue preserved until 2013. Yeah. Here's a link to that. It's cool stuff. It does look like a little hat. It almost looks like a miniature version of what Corythosaurus or Hypacrosaurus have. You know? Corythosaurus is a well-known duck-billed dinosaur. That's a bony crest. That's how we know this animal had a crest on its head. This is almost like a miniature version of that. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah.
We think that duck-billed dinosaurs were not only visual animals, but they also seem to have been animals that produced a lot of sounds that they could pick up on and identify each other with as well. Now, in the case of animals like Edmontosaurus, it may have been something that was amplified through the nasal balloons, if you want to say that.
Curry is convinced he and Roland Gangloff have found the start and finish of a great migration.
And we can't know if it had some resonance function. I mean, it may have, Sothi. It's a good question.
In Alaska, small groups joined others until a vast herd, guided by instinct, began the long journey south to Alberta.
Dinosaurs like the duck-billed dinosaurs and the ceratopsian dinosaurs are animals that could move very
I like this game.
They have long limbs. We can look at trackway sites and calculate how fast they're moving, and we can see that it wouldn't be much of a problem for either the duckbills or the ceratopsian dinosaurs to move great distances over a period of several months. And we can see that they probably were moving south to areas like Alberta to take advantage of the food that was available there during the winter months. And of course they were being followed by the tyrannosaurs, which would pick off the older stragglers and so on from these big herds.
The distance from...
I like this. What? It's like Phil Curry as a general pushing the, those pieces around the map, directing troops. I wonder what you call that thing. What's the pusher thing called?
Stragglers and so on.
Does anybody know what that implement is called?
From these big herds.
Huh.
The distance from the north coast of Alaska to southern Canada is 3,000 kilometers, farther
But
than
it has a
any
French
land
name? It
animal,
probably
including
does, Slumber.
caribou,
You're
migrates
probably
today.
right. It's called a rake, Vicer. Let's look this up, actually. Let's see what that thing is called. Yeah. Well, well, well. What is the name of that stick used to... A plotting rod. Or plotter. Wait. Languages... Nope. Not what we're looking for. Apparently some people call it a plotting rod. Oh, but in a I guess like casino context, it's called a croupier stick. Croupier stick, war room. Well, well, well. A croupier stick, that's what I'm gonna call it. And whoever said it probably had a French name. Slumber, you were correct. Ah, that's great. It's called a cue in shuffleboard. That makes sense, diagonal. But in shuffleboard, it's got... Doesn't it have like a concave, almost like a C-shaped end to it? Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Some seem to commonly be referring to it as a war rake. Well, there's all kinds of different terms for it, I suppose. But, cool to see Phil Curry using it in this context. I wonder if it's ever been used to push dinosaurs around before this.
Of course, they were being followed by the tyrannosaurs, which would pick off the older stragglers and so on from these big herds.
The distance from the north coast of Alaska to southern Canada is 3,000 kilometers, farther than any land animal, including caribou, migrates today.
Must have been absolutely fantastic to have an aerial view of the Cretaceous period, either in the springtime in Alberta or the fall months in Alaska, because what you would see is very much like what we see today with the caribou.
Actually, speaking of games, That reminds me, I found this a while back, which was really cool. The Evolve or Perish board game. Put together by the Smithsonian. This is a board game developed by artist-illustrator Hannah Bonner and the Evolution of Terrestrial Ecosystems program at the Smithsonian Institution. Uh, 2 to 4 players, 15 to 30 minutes. It's kind of like Chutes and Ladders, or Snakes and Ladders, as some people call it, really weirdly, but you can print this, and it's called Evolve or Perish. I think you use dice for this, or a die. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. Shoot forward, slide back, crawl ahead. And it kind of goes through the history of life on Earth. 2 pages, really cool. I will give you a link to this. There you go. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Snakes and roundabouts, says Hendon. What? But yeah. Anyway, cool stuff. Maybe I'll play that with Ios and Lordy at some point at a future cocktail hour or something. That might be fun. But yeah.
The Alaska must have been absolutely fantastic to have an aerial view of the Cretaceous period, either in the springtime in Alberta or the fall months in Alaska, because what you would see is very much like we see today with the caribou. The animals would start collecting into small groups, and as the small groups started their migration, they would start amalgamating and form bigger groups. And these bigger groups, going through the forests and across the rivers and so on, would have been an absolutely fantastic thing when you're talking 4-ton dinosaurs and thousands of them.
Holy cow, yeah. Imagine that.
Phil Curry's evidence seemed solid until tragic details began to emerge. Details of a day in Alaska when a journey in the distant past went terribly wrong.
Ugh.
Until Roland Gangloff began digging here, the vast wilderness of Alaska seemed no place for a dinosaur. But his latest discovery suggests dinosaurs were doing more in Alaska than just
Hey, Mr. Tien, welcome back. Good to see you.
He and his team have found bones which are unusually small in size, but large in implications.
I have in my hand a cast of a Edmontosaurus skull, which is still a juvenile. It's not a full-grown adult.
That's a small one there.
But when you compare it to the jaws and skulls that we have here in Alaska, you can note very clearly that ours are very small by comparison and much younger juveniles.
Over 80% of Gangloff's fossils are so small they can only be from duckbills no more than 2 years old, too young to walk all the way to Canada.
The young could not travel anywhere near as fast as the adults. And if you're asking for over 2,000 miles each way, and a total of over 5,000 to almost 6,000 miles of just linear distance, just straight line distance, when you consider how animals migrate and how many more miles they would put on just meandering around and all the feeding stops and everything that goes on in a typical migration, it's really demanding much too much energy and much too much expense, as we would say, the biologic expense when it comes to migration.
Roland believes the youngsters lived in Alaska all year round, making short forays from the coast to the mountains in search of food.
Interesting.
But even short migrations can be perilous. Emerging from the fossils of the Colville is evidence of a disaster. On a spring morning, 70 million years ago, the sun appeared above the horizon and the snow began to melt. On cue, a herd of duckbills set out for the mountains across the river. But then, as now, rivers swollen by melting snow can erupt into torrents of raging water. The young dinosaurs lost their footing.
Hey,
Thrashing
Henrietta, welcome,
against
welcome.
the strong current, they panicked.
Uh.
The adults looked on helplessly as their offspring were swept away. The drama may have lasted only a few moments, but the scene was devastating. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, perished.
We see the same thing
These
today.
caribou were also crossing a river when a flash flood took them by surprise.
That really? Was that a flash flood there? Sometimes just river crossings go badly. They may have also just had to cross at a time when the river was too high.
Eventually, their bloated corpses will decompose and vanish into the sediment, like the duckbills. In Alaska, the ice bears mute testimony to the unending cycle of life and death. Without it, the tragic story of the polar dinosaurs may never have been told. But does it prove they were permanent residents? Roland Gangloff makes a compelling argument.
Number 25. Some populations.
Space frog. Holy cow, thank you for the 21 months of support there. I really do appreciate it.
Paleo dance.
Thank you, Undisclosed Space Frog, for keeping me online for the past 21 months. Holy cow.
Remained at high latitude in Alaska and parts of northern Canada.
Miss Strictine wants to know, do we know it was snowy in the winter? We do. Yeah. I understand that we're at the poles, but the global temperatures were higher with a lack of permanent ice anywhere, as I understand it. I wonder what winter then would have been comparable to today. Probably like freezing temperatures, some snow, total darkness during the winter, or at least for a few days, total darkness during the winter, because it still would have been very, very high latitude, like modern-day northern Alaska, within the Arctic Circle. We know this was within the Arctic Circle at the time. But it wouldn't have been as cold as modern-day Alaska during the winter, if that makes sense. So winters were milder, but still you would have had ice and snow and darkness. Yeah. And tired. I get that, Mr. Ictian. Yeah. Yeah. No worries. I'm glad you're here.
And these then took up residency at times, and other times had to migrate to some degree to make up for the changes in seasons. And I think that most of the migration was lateral, from the interior, going to the interior in the summer, moved back to the coastlines in the winter. Sometimes might have moved down the coastline, but not great distances. Maybe a few tens of miles at times, and maybe at the most 100 miles or so.
The polar dinosaurs are now on the map. But Alaska may not be the end of the road. One paleontologist thinks it was not just the home of the duckbills, but the birthplace of the most famous dinosaurs in North America.
Oh, migrating from Asia? Is that the idea? Across that land bridge? Yeah. I've literally never seen this episode before, and look who it is, everybody. It's Papa Jim. That makes me happy. It's 2 days in a row we've had Jim in an episode of Paleo World. Yeah.
Jim Kirkland has seen them all in the rugged hills of Colorado and Utah. From the Jurassic period 150 million years ago, Stegosaurus, and its brutal enemy, the carnosaur, Allosaurus.
Let me go get my water. Thank you, Phoenix. Here.
As well as the huge, earth-shaking sauropods. Yet 100 million years ago, these creatures suddenly disappear from the fossil.
I left my water in the car. I'll be right back.
Jim has come to Alberta to excavate their successors.
We don't see a mass extinction, we see a complete replacement of the fauna. And this is its legacy, the classic Upper Cretaceous faunas of Dinosaur Provincial Park. And this got to me asking why, in a very short period of time, do we totally turn over the fauna? In this investigation, we have to examine different areas in the world. Where are these animals coming from?
Kirkland thinks the dinosaurs in Alberta first evolved in Asia. Their invasion began after shifting continents pushed Alaska up out of a primeval ocean, creating a gateway to North America.
During the early Cretaceous, there was no Alaska. It was formed by two processes. One of these was the rotation of a land area on western Canada's coastline down to the south. At the same time, a land area about as large as New Guinea, called Rangralia, was drifting north across the North Pacific. The collision of these two land areas led to the development of a large mountain range that went continuously across into Siberia. This is the Brooks Range, and it provided a land bridge for the migration of dinosaurs from Asia into western North America. We see the hadrosaurs coming in large numbers, and we see the tyrannosaurs. This allowed these animals to come in through Alberta, into Utah, across western North America, all the way to the East Coast. With the migration of these animals, we see the loss of our sauropods in western North America. They're gone. And we see the huge carnosaurs missing, replaced by tyrannosaurs. This led the stage for the development of the faunas we see today here in Alberta.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool there. Yeah, pretty cool indeed. And what happened to my measuring cup? It's still at my old apartment. I didn't grab it this morning when I made a run there, Miss Yvette. I grabbed my ukulele and a few other things. A bunch of stuff, actually. But I forgot the measuring cup. I didn't grab it yet. Yeah. Yeah.
Alaska was the staging area for the greatest parade of dinosaurs the world has ever seen. After a decade of painstaking work on the frozen, bug-infested Colville, Roland Gangloff has clearly only scratched the surface. But his discoveries have already proved
he's surrendered already? Goodness.
How little we know about the fantastic creatures that ruled the Earth eons ago.
There you go, Steely
We can only guess what still lies buried beneath the ice.
Good stuff. Yeah. So from here, let's take a look at some evidence of dinosaurs in the snow. It's funny. When I started this episode, I didn't think it was going to be about that. Well, let's get back to that other video. This one here that I said we would finish. Let's take a look.
A lush forest in the prehistoric era, and was desolate cold wasteland, was actually a lush forest in the prehistoric era.
Antarctica was forested during the Mesozoic.
Full of life. These polar and subpolar regions were more temperate than they are today, having warm summers and in the winter seasons being significantly colder with long spans of darkness like what we see in modern Antarctica, although they wouldn't reach temperatures lower than what we have to deal with in our current climate.
Definitely not. Here, let's take a break from that for a second and watch this prehistoric planet clip. Antarctopelta. There we go. This is in Antarctica, 66 million years ago. As Maastrichtian says, heck, Antarctica was forested until around 35 million years ago. Yeah, until pretty recently, in the grand scheme of things. Take a look. These are ankylosaurs, Antarctopelta. kind of nodosaur
These
ankylosaur.
three are young Antarctopelta, small plant-eating dinosaurs. They're also one of this world's most heavily armored animals.
And next door, we'll talk about that too. How do you dig fossils in a place like
Youngsters
Antarctica?
are safer together.
I'll show you.
This far south, the plants on which they depend stop growing for months on end.
During the wintertime, yeah.
As winter approaches, these juveniles spend more time resting. Sheltering together conserves heat and therefore energy. This winter den, with powerful front limbs, they can enlarge this winter den. But each time they return, they've grown a little bigger. Their den seems a little smaller. And the brotherly bond starts to wear a little thin. For every growing animal, this is a vulnerable time. A time when they need to separate and each take its first tentative steps to find a territory of its own.
And Babzilla, I think I've got that for you.
Dinosaurs are once again on the move, return to look for food in warmer lands. Lives began. It's a search that many will not survive, leaving others to endure the freezing polar winter. A good territory must have a place in which to shelter. A cave, perhaps.
I don't remember this part.
Even in the coldest months, the temperature in most caves hardly varies. But he is not the first to be attracted by this one.
Oh, I remember this now. Yeah. And hey, Harissa, welcome, welcome.
This is the perfect place for an Antarctopelta to escape the worst winter weather.
Yeah.
Beneath the
Good stuff. Let's take a look at... Well, let's take a look at this here real quick. Back to the beginning.
Antarctica.
The frame rate on this is really low for some reason. Sorry. Not my fault.
Almost devoid of animals and plant life. But millions of years ago, it was a land of great dinosaurs.
I mean, let's be honest, it's still a land of great dinosaurs. Penguins are pretty great. But yeah, Antarctica does have a fascinating past. Absolutely, Mr. Ichthian.
Inhabiting a lush...
And Its Evolution, welcome. How are you doing? Good to have you here. Feist, what's shaking? Good to have you here.
Antarctic predators hunted fleet-footed prey. This huge continent was also a refuge for hardy beasts that survived a great mass extinction.
Like Lystrosaurus, yeah.
And giant pre-dinosaur reptiles weighing over a ton. Into this lost world travel a team of scientists.
So that's how you dig in Antarctica.
Hoping to unearth the secrets of Antarctica's mysterious past.
Using things like rock saws.
To venture into the most challenging place to search for fossils on Earth.
That's interesting. I've never read that. Oh boy.
Over a decade ago, the last fossils of a dinosaur were removed that helped change the idea that Antarctica was just an inaccessible land of ice.
This has been one of the most fantastic experiences of my life, even though it was the most difficult.
Oh, very cool, its evolution. Well, I wish you the best of luck in finding fossils there.
Incredibly, it was the largest carnivore of the early Jurassic found anywhere on our planet.
Cryolophosaurus.
It was unearthed in the southernmost continent that was once thought, only 100 years ago, to be devoid of all prehistoric life. After the discovery of Cryolophosaurus came more discoveries, like Glacialosaurus.
That's not true, as far as I understand it. I think Glacialosaurus was actually discovered first. It just wasn't named until after Cryolophosaurus was named. Oh yeah. And Dark Native, how are you doing? Shikole to you too. Welcome back. It's good to have you here.
Even evidence that the largest dinosaurs on Earth had used Antarctica as a land bridge. But how did ancient forests, plants, and prehistoric animals thrive in a polar continent that endures 4 months of complete darkness every year?
That's a good question.
And how did some Antarctic creatures survive an extinction event that destroyed life on other continents? Ultimately, how did dinosaurs come to rule the lost world of Antarctica?
Same way they did everywhere else. By walking there and just doing their dinosaur thing.
To get to the ends of the Earth, the scientists prepare in Christchurch, New Zealand, the established stepping stone to the frozen continent.
Dark Native says, how's the dino build coming along? Which one, Dark Native? I'm not in the process of building any dinosaurs right now.
Dr. Patty Ryberg and first-timer Dr. Libby Ives will join a group of a dozen scientists for a summer expedition to the Transantarctic Mountains. Nate was last here in 2011, hoping to emulate the success of that decade-old mission.
It's always exciting, you know, when you get to Christchurch and you're here at the CDC gearing up, and it feels more real that you're about to head down to Antarctica and get to the field.
All solid and hazardous waste generated within the United States Antarctic Program is shipped off the continent for recycling or proper disposal.
Dr. Patty Ryberg, expert on prehistoric plants, is on her third trip to Antarctica.
We have to have walkie-talkies on us all the time, so make sure you leave one of your pockets available for your walkie-talkie.
Right. For me right now, Antarctica is this big unknown.
You're bringing a life-size one for your backyard, if I remember. Oh, were you talking about the Allosaurus skull? Because that is finished. Yeah, let me go get that. And welcome, Victor 00555. Welcome to Paleontologizing.
When we are issued all the gear.
Here, I'll be right back with that, Dark Native.
All the possibilities are kind of crazy right now.
Shackleton on 3. 1, 2, 3. Shackleton!
The exposed rocks of the Transantarctic Mountains around their glaciers are the prime locations for fossil hunting.
This time I'm really excited about going to the Shackleton Glacier, which I've never been before, and it is such a kind of famous site and famous area for historic Antarctic exploration, but also for, you know, paleontology, even the past.
There we go. Here is my life-size Allosaurus skull. Allosaurus fragilis. Yeah. Check it out. Here. Not too shabby, right? Whoa. Holy cow. Yeah. It's pretty sizable. I still have yet to fill in the seams and paint it, but now that I've moved into my new place, I should have an opportunity to do that at some point. Yeah. Victor says, my dream is to go to Antarctica. Well, you're here on the right day. Welcome, welcome, Victor. It's good to have you here. Yeah. And I should figure out how to make a life-size one of those in my welding shop. Yeah, Hogan, that'd be cool. Yeah. Cratefruit says, where is Danny? What do you mean? Right here, Cratefruit. Yeah, behind the Allosaurus skull. And how big is the brain of something like that? Not super big. Heox. Welcome, by the way, Heox. Good to have you here. The brain of this dinosaur would be in the brain case. Oh boy. Which is... it's in this part of the skull, inside here. And you can actually see, right there is the foramen magnum, so that's where the spinal cord goes into the skull to link up with the brain. For a dinosaur like Allosaurus, the brain would be about the size of, I don't know, like a hot dog? Something like that? Maybe a little bit smaller. It's not one of the biggest brained of the theropods. But, yeah. It's gonna have a brain maybe the size of, yeah, maybe like a... Well, you know what? Shoot. I can show you. Hang on a sec. Allosaurus brain. There we go. I've searched this before, clearly. Take a look at that. Yeah, that is an Allosaurus brain endocast. So, the interior of the skull has got, you know, a hollow space where the brain would be. In this case, that got filled in with sediment. And you can see the inner ear right there. Yeah, this is really lovely. That is an Allosaurus brain endocast. Good stuff. Yeah. Pretty cool, right? Yeah. And Heox, you're welcome. Good question there. Anyway. Oh yeah, yeah. Anyway, let me go put this back. We'll get back to Antarctica here. And Tommy Platycus. Holy moly, Tommy Platycus.
That's almost a year.
It is indeed, Tommy Platycus. Thank you so much for the 12 months of support. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Here.
50 years or so.
Remarkably, this huge continent froze over completely only 15 million years ago. The ice sheet would cover the whole of the United States of America. Wind speeds and low temperatures unrivaled anywhere on Earth.
It's crazy to think about how much ice there actually is on Antarctica. The continent itself is a little over 14 million square kilometers, and about 98% of that is covered
Probably
with
about 20, 25 pounds, Girl Pikachu. Yeah.
But the story of how the ice world was created starts way back in the past, 300 million years ago.
Yep. Anyway, let's get back to the Mesozoic here. This is really cool, though. Here.
Despite the continual movements of continents, Antarctica has never strayed much beyond the polar circle, which sees
Very
darkness
funny,
descend
Cosmos.
for 4
Hey, welcome
months
back.
a year.
One of the enduring mysteries of Antarctic paleontology is what these ecosystems and communities were like that were living at high latitudes in a polar light regime.
The expeditions always take place
Dinosaurs were
during
the
the
sort of creatures you might think of as inhabiting another planet, or the kind you dream of in a bad nightmare.
Maastrichtian.
Mary dinosaurs.
Maastrichtian, thank you very much. And thank you for the 30 months of support. Holy moly. It's a long time. Thanks for keeping me here on the air for that long. By the way, Maastrichtian, we are having a special Fishmas celebration on Friday. We're going to be talking all about coelacanths.
Version of heaven.
And Victor, thank you for the follow, too. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. Yeah. We're going to be talking all about coelacanths on Fishmas Day, December 22nd, Friday. We're going to be talking about the discovery of the coelacanth and why it still captures people's imaginations to this very day. A fish long thought extinct, but discovered live on December 22nd, 1938, off the east coast of South Africa, near the Chilumna River.
If you're feeling a bit cheated, try blading
And
the
thank you,
dinosaur.
Golganek, for those 100 bits.
Exclamation question mark.
Gesundheit, Golganek. Thank you for the 100 bits, and we got a hype train kicked off here. Beautiful. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Good stuff. And is this Antarctic TSA, Grilled Pikachu? Let's find out, shall we?
The expeditions
And Hogan, 300 bits. Thank you for that. 30 bits from Twitch. Excellent. Thank you, Hogan. We're on our way to a level 1 hype train here. Very nice.
always take place during the precious summer.
And another 300 for Pontius Pirate. Thank you, Pontius Pirate. That is excellent. It really is. Thank you kindly.
Months. An incredible 24/7 of sunlight, giving them as many daylight hours to work as they want. After a few days preparing in Christchurch, it's time to leave.
That is a C-17, I think? Cargo plane? Or C-7? C-7 or C-17? The Globe is what it's called, right? C-7 Globe? C-17 Globe?
Antarctica is probably one of the hardest places to look for fossils in the world. And a lot of that is because of the logistics of getting down.
Globemaster. Oh. Okay, okay.
Dinosaurs
Thank you.
hold
Almost
a
remembered it.
special magnetism for children.
Bet Medler, 17 months. Thank you, Bet Medler. I appreciate you very
1,000
much.
bits can make a wonderful difference in promoting the appreciation
Holy
and
cow.
understanding of fossil science here on Twitch.
Lordy, holy moly. Do I appreciate that? Thank you very, very much for those 1,000 bits there. Lordy, that is extraordinary. Thank you very, very much. And Twitch, thank you for the 150 bits there. That's fantastic. You know I love a hype train? I do know you love a hype train, Lordy. Thank you for that. And we're on our way to a level 2 now. Excellent. We'll We'll see how far this train can progress. We're on our way to our sub goal. At this rate, I don't know if we'll make it this week, but we'll see. The week is not over yet. Far from it. And is that right, Codmos? Walgreen Coast? I did not know that. Huh. Yeah. As another coast in Antarctica called the CVS coast. Yeah. And Mistrictian says, one of these days I'll figure out why my dinosaur badge won't show up. It's because you've got a founder badge instead, Mistrictian. That's far more rare. That first badge right there. Yeah. That's why, Mistrictian. It's the same with Lordy there. See how she's got the first badge too? Because you're one of the first subscribers who is still subscribed today. But Dinosaur, yeah. I need to make new sub badges, by the way, because we've gotten up to the adult Taurosaurus there, and yeah, we'll see. Anyways, let us have both. Yeah, you might be able to switch it, Mistrictian. I'm not sure.
Try blading the dinosaurs.
It belongs in a museum.
And thank you for the 100 bits there, the Raven. I really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Good stuff. Yeah. Excellent. And for a type of handmade sandwich to eat on a long dig, I usually just have peanut butter sandwiches, Codmos. Because we usually don't have refrigeration for things like cheese and stuff like that. But yeah, it's usually just peanut butter sandwiches for me when I'm out on the field. Let's get back to this.
Down there and working on the continent.
Hey guys.
I think Mistrictian, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah.
It's a 6-hour flight on a U.S. Air Force cargo plane from Christchurch, New Zealand, to the icebound continent.
McMurdo, yeah. And yay percent agreed. Protein is really important in the field. Yeah.
U.S.-run McMurdo is its largest science station. This base of 1,200 people will be their home for a week as they prepare for a trip to Shackleton Glacier.
There you go,
Kind of feels like it's a cross between a remote mining outpost and a small liberal arts college.
And it's built to withstand terrible storms. Out in the field, scientists face real dangers.
Because Antarctica is so isolated and the climate and weather can be so severe, it is a dangerous place to work, and you have to take a lot of safety precautions and go through quite a bit of training.
I would imagine, yeah.
One of the biggest are crevasses. Gaping.
And Hogan says, just a week? I'd love to stay there for an entire season. They're going to be there for a week before they go to Shackleton Glacier. That's the idea, I think. Yeah.
Holes that can open up without warning. All field scientists have to learn how to climb out of them if they fall.
It's a lot of
Even in those warmer
learning
months,
to do
you can
to
get
work in
storms
Antarctica.
moving
Sounds
in,
like.
really high winds, really extreme temperatures. So we have special training that we go through before we go further out into the field, learning some crevasse training, some ways to traverse glaciers, all with the mind of keeping alert and being prepared for those conditions.
Thank you everybody for that hype train, by the way. Thank you.
Living
Thank you.
under canvas will soon
Really
be their
appreciate the
world
support.
for 6 weeks.
That's not canvas. That's nylon.
As a reminder of what faces them out in the mountains, a big storm strikes Antarctica.
We had some bad weather that slowed us down in getting out to our camp. We obviously can't be flying during those times.
Everything they need will be taken for their 6 weeks in the treacherous transantarctic mountains.
And there you go, Mr. Trictine. Yeah, the ice is so incredibly thick in some of those places. On the really big glaciers.
Storm over. They're transported deep.
There you go, damage control, yeah. Oh, thanks, Dark Native. I appreciate that.
Now,
do you want us to look at that live? Is that what you're asking?
Hundreds of miles from the nearest help.
Gargantuans and authentic, because though they died out so long ago, their fossil bones
Original old dog.
so we know just what they were like.
16 months.
Them into
Thank you.
Or rather, extinct life.
I really appreciate the support, Original Old Dog. Thank you for those 16 months of support, and welcome back. Good stuff.
Thousands from civilization.
It does in some ways feel like you're setting foot on another planet.
Oh, thanks, Dark Native. Okay, appreciate that.
Their mission is to understand the planet's most momentous extinction event 250 million years ago.
So they're going to be looking at fossils that are older than the dinosaurs here. And Exnuzim, how are you doing? Welcome,
They're
welcome.
aiming to get to a once notorious ridge on Shackleton called Collinson Ridge. With decades of experience,
How are we going to get over there?
Bill Hammer was on hand to provide advice to Nate.
And Exnuzim, thank you for the follow. Welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here.
And his team before they left.
The hardest place to get to, which will be one of your best localities, is Collinson Ridge. We found some good stuff there, but we only got there twice because it was so hard to get to. We had to go all the way out to the Shackleton, go all the way down here, about a 45-minute snowmobile ride, and then it was a good hour climb up to get to the top of the ridge.
That's neat, Hogan. I didn't know it was nuclear powered for a while. That's super
Helicopter
cool.
transfers now
Probably
make it one of
supplied
the
by the U.S. Navy, I would imagine.
for fossil hunting.
They do a lot of portable nuclear reactor stuff. Grilled Pikachu wants to know, does the erosion from a glacier help or hinder the discovery of fossils? Well, if there's a glacier on top of it, it's going to hinder it because you're not going to be able to find the fossils because there's a glacier on top. But otherwise, having a lot of erosion does help you find fossils to a certain extent. So yeah, erosion is both the greatest friend and the worst enemy of the field paleontologist. Erosion is what exposes the fossils for us to find in the first place, but it's also what breaks up the fossils and you know, makes it so that they are incomplete when we find them. It's, you know, erosion is use a cliche, it's a double-edged sword, you know? Yeah. And Exnuzim agrees, yeah. Yep. And that's pretty cool, Hogan. That is pretty cool.
Places we go, when you go there, you're the first people that have ever been there. That's the amazing thing. The other amazing thing about it is, if there's no wind and you're away from the rest of your party, total silence.
No birds, no insects.
You cannot experience total silence anywhere else that I've been. And so it's kind of neat. It's kind of eerie a little bit, but it's pretty neat.
They split into small teams. The sedimentologists find themselves in an exposed mountainous outcrop that recorded a key geological event.
Pontius Pirate, of course, yeah. Pontius Pirate says the Antarctic Peninsula in January is warmer than Chicago in January. Chicagoans wanting to escape winter should head to Antarctica. It does get very cold in Chicago, but also, Pontius Pirate, you know very well that January is Antarctic summer. So that's like the warmest part of the year in Antarctica. We'll be talking about that a little bit tomorrow or the day after. When is winter solstice this year? When is winter solstice 2023? Thursday, December 21st. So we'll be talking a little bit about the tilt of the Earth and how that creates seasons. We'll talk about Milankovitch cycles and about how they bring about ice ages and stuff like that. Thursday, I guess, is going to be a confluence of paleontology and astronomy and meteorology. That's going to be fun. So yeah. It's also going to be the shortest day of the year. Yeah. Literal ton of money, not sure this... There you go, Cosmos, yeah. As Lordy says, think about how many dinosaurs I could dig up with that amount of money. Holy cow. Maybe 1 million. Yeah. And Cooking Fat says, that's crazy. Even with the cold and snow, it's classed like a desert because there's so little precipitation. Yeah. And Heox says, what is that around your neck? Ooh, I've got a special command for that. For my Z-Coal necklace. A bit of the KPG boundary in it. Yeah, thank you, Charlie's Dragon, for pulling up that command. That should explain it for you there, Heox. Gene Wen says, as an expert, where would you say is the best spot to give dinosaurs scritches? Oh boy. I know birds like to be scratched, oftentimes like around their neck. So if you're... that might be more difficult for certain dinosaurs. Like, for instance, your big sauropods. Yeah. They have to really want scratches, I guess. To bend down for you to do that. But, yeah. By the ears, says Breedup. That's probably true, yeah. Yeah. I like your question, Jenna. I like your question. But yeah. Dark Native says, indigenous people celebrated Thanksgiving on both solstices and both equinoxes. Yeah. I like to mark those too. Those are special occasions, and there's something real about them. A solstice or an equinox, it's observable in the real world. It's not just like, somebody made a decree that this holiday is on such and such a day or whatever. It's observable in the heavens, and that's super neat. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So yeah. And Luis de Leon says a T-Rex would have a hard time scratching the backside of its head with its forelimbs. Yeah, it wouldn't be able to do that. T-Rex could not it could not touch its fingers together from different, from its two hands. Its hands could not touch one another. Yeah. Yeah, here. Let's take a look at a skeletal diagram of T-Rex right there. It would probably not be able to... Well, it depends on how flexible its neck was, I suppose. Yeah. Interesting to think about. Yeah. It also makes you wonder if there were symbiotic relationships between big dinosaurs like this and their smaller avian dinosaur relatives. If birds would have landed on the backs of dinosaurs like this to pick bugs off of them and stuff like that. Kind of like oxpeckers do in out on the African savanna today. Yeah. Celia Jensen could probably rub on a tree like a bear. Oh yeah, these guys could do that. And there were some big trees where T-Rex lived. Things like sequoias. Stuff like that. So yeah. Anyway. Pretty cool. Let's get back to our Antarctic video here.
All of this is lower Triassic, so you're looking at something.
And I know that that illustration, Mr.
2 million years.
Let me grab that.
And it's all just trapped in time as the record of that flood event, which is kind of cool.
So somewhere between where I'm kneeling now and about 30 feet above me, 70 to 90% of the plants and animals all around the world just disappeared.
This is the Permian
The
extinction
Permian
event.
Triassic boundary marks what paleontologists call the Great Dying. 70% of land animals died out, and 95% of marine life.
Yep.
All due to a widespread collapse of forests, plants, and nutrient ecosystems.
This was due to runaway global warming at the time. But this is the illustration that Maastrichtian was talking about right there, I believe. Right? A Tyrannosaurus. Sorry, this is getting all blown out with the lighting and everything, but yeah, I don't have my desk cam up and running, or I would show you this, but there is a Tyrannosaur opening its mouth and having pterosaurs clean it. Cool, huh? I'm hoping very soon I'll have the desk cam up and running again, so we can use that. Take advantage of all of the books that I have here. Hang on a second, goodness. Oh boy. All right, we working now? Good. You know, so we can put these books to use on stream. But yeah. I gotta figure out why that camera keeps freezing, too. We're having camera issues here. So yeah, there's a pic online. Thanks, Mr. Ictian. Nice. Yeah. Good stuff. It's interesting to think about, like, the symbiotic relationships or, like, mutualistic relationships that creatures would have had during the Mesozoic. It's neat stuff. Anyway, let's go from here to dinosaurs. Let's see. Let's talk about those critters.
Part of the trunk. It's one of the very few places on Earth where we have a fossil forest in the exact same spot as when they were alive. So even though they're 170 million years old, they actually haven't moved from where they were when they were living trees.
That's pretty cool.
These forests probably grew at or near the polar circle when New Zealand was thousands of miles further south. For certain, Antarctica's trees had to survive months of polar darkness.
These are plants that like to grow when it's dark for 4 months and the sun never sets for 4 months. So how do plants, they don't do it today. So how do plants actually manage to keep alive and survive? So we've got this really long tree here.
Sure.
Oh, and if we come down here, you can actually see the rings.
And Marika, I'm glad you like that I put the Dilophosaurus skull up here today. Yeah, I just brought that from my apartment this morning. It's nice to have here for sure. I like to change up the background every day now that I'm here in the new office. So yeah, we've got Dilophosaurus and Camarasaurus for today, along with some ferns and cycads and stuff. Anyway, good stuff. And Merry Christmas to you too, Mr. Ictian. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, and I hope you have a wonderful new year as well. The new office space looks great. Thanks, Space Frog. Thank you. It took a lot of work, and I'm still working on it. Working on the lighting and everything. Here, let me show you something, actually. One of the cool perks of this new space. Check that out. We make it a little bit chillier in here. Or how about brighten things up a little? Or, make it nice and blue? Yeah. This is, cool stuff. I can do a lot with the lighting here, which makes things really fun. Yeah. So, yeah. Eventually I'll be able to link these up to my Stream Deck, but that's not possible right now. So for now I gotta control it through my phone, but one of these days we'll, yeah, we'll have it at the push of a button through the Stream Deck. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Cosmos says, Danny, favorite dinosaur painted by James Gurney? Shoot, I don't know, Cosmos. There's so many to choose from. I always thought his Allosaurs looked really cool. And the Ceratosaurus that he did for the World of Dinosaurs stamp collection, pretty neat. But yeah, yeah. There we go. And thank you for the hydrate, Risu.
The tree grew to be about 90 years old.
Cheers.
And went dormant during periods. Like an extreme version of winter today, where a chemical is released by the tree to drop its leaves and suspend growth. Could this be a polar winter strategy? Or part of a normal winter variation?
There you go, Kodali.
The proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Can I get to eat pudding?
On Shackleton Glacier, Patty has found more ancient preserved trees in the frozen rocks.
I did some studies on the tree rings down here, and basically they go, and they go, and they go, and then they stop. Right quick. It's almost instantaneous.
Variation in their tree rings indicate these periods of extreme dormancy, where growth stopped very quickly compared to today. But it's not the complete answer to the mystery. Modern plants and trees won't survive this stress, and will probably die during months of complete darkness. So how did they spring back to life with such long periods without photosynthesis?
That's a good question. Shoot. Diagonal, you probably know something about this.
Lineage could help.
Oh, is it the ginkgo? Yeah. Oh, man. I love ginkgos. I love ginkgos. Let's take a look at ginkgos on our Tree of Life. Ginkgo. There we go. Yeah. These are, today not very common. I used to think there was only one species, but no, there's a bunch of species here. Unless these are all fossil species. We've got Ginkgo biloba right here. Yeah. Ginkgoalis, there we go. They are gymnosperm plants. They used to be super, super common, like one of the dominant plant groups. Now they're very rare. Like Ginkgoaceae. Oh wait, holy cow, the only extant representative is Ginkgo biloba. There's only one living species of ginkgo? Shoot. Yeah. Interesting. You've probably seen these trees on city streets, maybe. They are very, very common trees in cultivation. Urban arborists really like these. But the thing is, you gotta plant male trees, because the females produce these big, messy, smelly fruits. But yeah, they are beautiful. They really are. We've got a bunch of them here in San Francisco and Oakland and Alameda and Berkeley. The areas near where I live. Yeah. The last ginkgo, yeah, Marika, yeah. There's only one living species as far as I know, Breedub, yeah. Yeah. The only extant representative is Ginkgo biloba. Also known as the maidenhair tree, which is interesting. Yeah. But, pretty cool. So yeah, yeah. And welcome back to you, Mustang W16. It has been some time. How are you, Mustang? Hello, hello. I hope things are good. Yeah. And Cosmo says, when looking at a tuatara and a standard lizard, what would me do to distinguish them? You look at how they are, Cosmos. Yeah, shoot. If we're talking about tuataras versus lizards, their skulls are wildly different. But like, there's lots and lots of aspects of their anatomy that are also very different. So there we go. Yeah. The skull in particular is very distinctive. Very distinctive. One of the big things is tuatara don't have socketed teeth. Their teeth are not in sockets. Their teeth are just sharp protrusions of the jawbone itself. They don't have, like, socketed teeth. That's really the biggest thing. We'll have a whole tuatara stream in May, is it? Let's see here. February, March, April, May. May 2nd is Tuatara Day. We're going to be having a special Tuatara stream then. Yeah. Murph says their teeth are bones? Basically, yeah. Yeah, here, let me show you. Yeah. About looking on the outside if I was holding a living one in each hand. Cosmos, it depends what kind of lizard you're looking at, I guess. If you're trying to distinguish it from a tuatara. I mean, tuatara are kind of unmistakable. If you know it's a tuatara, then you know it's not a lizard, you know? But there's that jaw, so the teeth, they're almost like pseudo-teeth. They're just protrusions of the jawbone. They're just like, the jawbone comes up and comes to sharp points like that. It's not like they have teeth and sockets like we have. There's no roots to the teeth. It's just like sharp points on the jaw. Isn't that neat? Yeah. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And this is called acrodonty. It's an anatomical placement of the teeth at the summit of the alveolar ridge of the jaw without sockets, characteristic of bony fish. And there it is again in a tuatara. Yeah. Pretty neat. So tuataras are the last living individuals of, last living representatives of a group called the Rhynchocephalia, which also included, I think, rhynchosaurs, right? Much like ginkgos, tuatara and the other rhynchocephalians used to be much more common. They were all over the place. They were a pretty diverse group of different animals. And there were even some marine ones, if I recall correctly. There were ones that actually took to the sea. Like, yeah, number 3 right there. Pleurosaurus is a rhynchocephalian. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, and didn't Iguanodon have teeth like that? No, Hogan. Iguanodon had socketed teeth, like all dinosaurs that had teeth. Yeah. And Murph says, how does that not wear down / break? No, they do. Murph, yeah. Yeah, having teeth like that is not... It doesn't work super well, you know? Yeah. And Ragnaroker, I've not seen the new Godzilla yet. I'm hoping to see it next week. We'll see. We'll see. I've heard it's really good, though. Anyway, let's get back to our video here. We went off on a ginkgo tangent. Now let's come back to the ginkgo.
The ginkgo tree. Sole survivor of the Triassic period and a direct descendant of its prehistoric cousin, solves this mystery. Scientists put ginkgo plants along with others in experimental greenhouses to imitate the polar summers and winters. To mimic the polar environment during the Cretaceous,
good night to you too, Marika. Thanks for being here.
With another ingredient, carbon dioxide. The Great Dying Event at the end of the Permian raised CO2 levels stratospherically. During the later Cretaceous period, they were still 2 times higher than they are today. Remarkably, the ginkgo plants survived the experiment. It did this by sucking up more energy in the test summer, enough to offset the trauma of the test polar winter as it went into dormancy. The higher CO2 levels appeared to be key to their survival.
Interesting.
Evidence that the Glossopteris trees stumbled upon by Scott were destroyed by the Great Dying is clearly evident even in Antarctica today.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about our dinosaurs here. Oh, and is that Tony Martin there?
Boundary between the Triassic and the Jurassic periods.
At the end of the Triassic period, about 200.
I'm hopefully going to be bringing Tony Martin on as a guest on this broadcast very soon. Shoot, I need to check my email. I think he sent me a reply email finally. It's been a game of telephone about this, but yeah.
100 million years ago, we lost maybe as much as 70% of all life.
The cause is largely a mystery.
Now, we've got a pretty good handle on it now.
It's one of the lesser-known mass extinctions because dinosaurs survived it. So some of the earliest dinosaurs that...
Oh, wait, hang on. I'm sorry. No, we're talking about the end Triassic extinction. No, he's right. It was really bad, yeah. Yeah, shoot.
The Triassic and the Jurassic periods.
Yeah.
At the end of the Triassic period, about 200 million years ago, we lost maybe as much as 70% of all life.
The cause is largely a mystery.
It's one of the lesser-known mass extinctions because dinosaurs survived it. So some of the earliest dinosaurs that were around then...
Ones that we were talking about yesterday, dinosaurs like Saturnalia, Eoraptor, Coelophysis, Plateosaurus, Massospondylus. Those dinosaurs, maybe not those particular genera, but members of those groups survived this extinction event, and then dinosaurs take over the Earth after that. Dinosaurs were, starting to become bigger during the Triassic, but man, that extinction event really kind of cleared the table for them. It cleared the playing field for them, we'll say. And they did really, really well afterward.
Made it past that extinction because the end of the Triassic took out a lot of their so-called competition. So the success of the dinosaurs may be just happenstance.
It's not just happenstance. I mean, let's face it, dinosaurs were very, very good at what they did. Yeah.
From that mass extinction way back in the late Triassic.
This, the 4th major extinction event to affect Earth since the beginning of life, allowed the rise of the dinosaurs, seeing them become the dominant land animals on Earth. As Earth recovered, life on Gondwana's most southern continents was different from other lands.
In Gondwana, that's the southern supercontinent. So that's South America, Africa, Australia, Madagascar, India, and Did I say Antarctica or Australia? Yeah.
One of the big questions Nate and his team are still trying to answer is how the creatures of Antarctica also survived in the long polar nights. Unlike the plants, animals need to conserve energy in a completely different way.
Yep.
With so few expeditions to this part of the world, time is against them finding these answers. Back to Shackleton Glacier.
Oh, and Cosmos, based on current complete fossils. We've got no complete fossils of any of the largest dinosaurs, Cosmos. Yeah. If there's two major contenders for the biggest and heaviest dinosaurs, it would probably be Argentinosaurus and Patagotitan. They're both titanosaurs from toward the end of the Cretaceous period. So Patagotitan and Argentinosaurus. They're both from Patagonia in Argentina. Their names kind of drop a little clue there.
This season, the weather has been kind to them, allowing them to spend more time in the field uncovering clues to the mysteries of polar vertebrates. But this frozen desert is the toughest place to dig for fossils on the Earth.
Oof. With rock saws.
With little erosion in Antarctica, they have to carefully look for chance traces on the surface of the frozen rocks.
I guess there wouldn't be a lot of erosion.
The paleontologists use power saws to extract them.
So we actually did that this summer. Let me see if I can find footage of that from back in June. I may have deleted those videos because they may have been taking up too much space. But let's see here. Nope, we've got some. Yeah, here, check this out. Here's Ethan Cowgill using a rock saw at our hadrosaur skull site. And where's the sound? Oh, okay. Let's unmute this. Yeah. Not sponsored, SB. But yeah, good stuff. And that's a gasoline-powered saw right there. In case anybody was wondering. And are fossils ever ruined by humans with power tools? Certainly, Brita. Yeah, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. Yeah.
The first one that I noticed.
So that's what they're using there too.
Once located,
that's also going to be gasoline powered.
Use power saws to extract them.
Not sponsored yet. I like the way you think, Static.
Past this slope is a foot, and so we have a hind foot here, and it's pretty much articulated, so it's as it would be arranged in life. So what I'm working on here is the early reptile relative called Procolophon, which is kind of a burrowing sort of, small-sized animal. So this is a kind of a refugee animal that fled from lower latitudes in South Africa to higher latitudes here in Antarctica.
Procolophon is a type of primitive reptile that's similar in size.
Sorry about the frame rate here. I don't know why the frame rate is so low on this video.
Stalks our deserts today.
Yeah, but let's get to our dinosaurs, shall we? There's our Tuatara again. There might not be much stuff with the dinosaurs. There's a bit here.
These dinosaurs roamed North America in the late Cretaceous 70 million years ago.
Oh, ankylosaurs.
And are famous for their club-like tails. This 20-foot-long Antarctic relative was named Antarctopelta.
We saw that in the prehistoric
and must have dispersed
planet
down through South America to Antarctica when they were still connected. So dinosaurs had either migrated to or evolved on Antarctica after all, with or without polar adaptations. We know that dinosaurs emerged after the fourth extinction event at the end of the Triassic to become the dominant species in the Jurassic period, including in Antarctica. But why?
A cool looks story.
A major
Arctic
change
dinosaur
in the
in Chicago?
climate
Very
occurred
cool.
around the start of the Jurassic.
You should get on that. That sounds neat.
Produced the perfect environment for the emerging dinosaur plant eaters that would become abundant.
Yeah. Anyway, this isn't... I've seen the rest of this documentary, and they don't talk too much about dinosaurs living in cold environments or anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to check out this video from PBS Eons here. We're going to move from the southern hemisphere, from the southernmost continent, Antarctica, to the Arctic in the north. Let's do it.
About 70 million years ago, far up in the Arctic Circle, it was the dead of winter. It was cold, around -10 degrees Celsius, but the real struggle in this environment was the oppressive darkness, up to 4 months of it at a time. Most of the plants there had shut down for the winter due to the lack of sunlight, but lichens and probably horsetails still survived. And in this dark landscape, there was what might sound like an unlikely sight, the body of a dinosaur, specifically a hadrosaur called Edmontosaurus. It was a huge plant eater, about as big as a school bus, with a wide duck-billed snout. But this dead dinosaur wasn't alone. A living theropod was there too, Troodon, covered in a thick fuzz for warmth and with big eyes to help it see.
Notice how she pronounces it Troodon? I've always said Troodon.
Troodon.
And chatters like to call it Tradoon. Yeah. And Codmos, Marapunosaurus. Yeah, I don't believe those estimates. There's a little off the wall there. Again, it's tough with these big sauropods. A lot of them are known from really fragmentary stuff. I think there's some reason to really, really doubt those estimates. I don't remember exactly what it was. But yeah.
See in the darkness. It covered in a thick fuzz for warmth and with big eyes. Was there too, Troodon, covered in a thick fuzz for warmth and with big eyes to help it see in the darkness. It feasted eagerly at the carcass, crucial calories at a time when food could be hard to find. All told, the Arctic in the Cretaceous period was a rough place to live, especially in winter. And yet the fossils of many...
I really like that, actually. Take a look at this. We've got the Arctic Circle up here, and the continents arranged as they were about 70 million years ago. Very nice. Very nice. That's a lovely little diagram there. I like that a lot.
The Cretaceous period was a rough place to live, especially in winter. And yet the fossils of many kinds of dinosaurs have been discovered there.
Yep, there's Nenoxaurus. This is all that we have from it, is the distal part of the left dennary here, and I think there's 1 or 2 bones from the back of the skull as well. They just modeled this on, like, Albertosaurus, the rest of the skull. So yeah, not a whole lot of material from Nenoxaurus there. It might not even be its own genus of dinosaur. It might just be Albertosaurus. But yeah. Here you go, diagonal. But yeah.
So
distal is extremities, exactly,
able
SB, yeah.
to survive in this harsh environment? Like,
Proximal is close to the core of the body, distal is further away. So, proximal, distal. Yeah, sorry, I try not to use jargon like that, but sometimes it just kind of spills out, you know?
what would a herd of hadrosaurs eat when most of the plants stopped growing? Did they eke out an existence every winter, or did they migrate? If they did, how'd they do it? The answers to these questions are written in the bones that the Arctic dinosaurs left behind. And it looks like these polar dinos got by in ways that are similar to how some modern Arctic mammals survive today, with a little luck and some very particular adaptations, both in their bodies and behavior. The North and South Poles are among the most challenging places on Earth for any organism to live.
Reverse oatmeal,
It's
thank you.
cold and dark through most of the winter, and food can be really limited. So in 1961, it came as a surprise to a geologist mapping rock exposures along the Colville River in Alaska when he
We saw this earlier in that episode of Paleo World. Lovely callback here.
found big fossil bones. These fossils weren't fully studied until the 1980s, when a paleontologist rediscovered them in storage and identified them as belonging to a hadrosaur. And ever since then, more and more fossils of dinosaurs, mammals, and plants have been found there that give us a better picture of what the Arctic was like in the Cretaceous. For one thing, it was actually warmer than it is today. During the Cretaceous period, there was no ice around the North Pole. Mean annual temperatures were about 6.3 degrees Celsius versus around negative 12 degrees Celsius today in the northernmost parts of Alaska. And we know this from paleosols, or fossil soils. Experts can use the carbon and oxygen isotopes in these soils to figure out at what temperatures they formed. They can then use that to estimate the mean annual temperature for the environment where those soils were found. Plus, fossil plants like horsetails, ferns, and deciduous trees also provide clues about the climate at the time in things like the size and shape of their leaves. But these warmer temperatures didn't mean life was that much easier for dinosaurs living there. While the mean temperature during the warmer months was a balmy 14.5 degrees Celsius, winter temps could drop as low as negative 10. And remember those 4 months of darkness? Well, that's because Alaska was farther north than it is today, at almost 85 degrees latitude north.
So that's really, really interesting. I want to echo that point real quick, because we think about the continent shifting, and you would think, oh well, Alaska. Alaska must have been closer to the equator back then, so it was warmer, right? Wrong. It was warmer, but just because global average temperatures were higher. Alaska was actually further north back then.
Alaska was farther north than it is today, at almost 85 degrees latitude north, so the winter darkness would have lasted for about 120 days.
Holy cow. That's nuts. Think about that. 120 days of winter darkness. That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, holy cow. Imagine, living in a place where it's just dark for like 1/3 out of the year. That's nuts. Yeah, holy cow.
Without sunlight, many plants would have stopped photosynthesizing, which meant less food for big herbivores like Edmontosaurus. These hadrosaurs were probably the most abundant dinosaur in the Arctic, but they also had close relatives further south in places like North Dakota and Wyoming. So did these hadrosaurs actually overwinter in a place so close to the North Pole? Well, to try to figure this out, researchers began by closely studying the dinosaurs' bones, specifically looking inside them at their histology or the microscopic structure of their tissues.
You know what? I ought to make another sound command like ontogeny. We should have a histology, sound command that chatters can use. Maybe we'll use Holly Woodward's voice for that. But yeah. Breedham says, I'm sad if I don't see the sun for 2 days. I know, right? Imagine 120 days, 60 times longer. Yeah.
By examining the internal structure of bone, you can see how and when an animal grew over the course of its life, kind of like looking at the rings of a tree. When food is abundant or more energy dense, dinosaurs could deposit bone tissues more rapidly and grow faster. But when food is scarce, bone tissue is laid down more slowly, and these two types of bone look different under a microscope. One study compared the bones of Arctic Edmontosaurus to those that lived in a more temperate climate in southern Alberta. And the bones of Arctic dinosaurs had alternating layers of normal bone growth and slower bone growth, suggesting that they might have spent up to half the year eating lower quality foods like ferns and horsetails.
So they're probably not migrating that much.
In some modern mammals today, some subspecies of caribou that overwinter in the Arctic do this too, surviving the season on a diet of lichen. Now, the bones of the dinosaurs from farther south also showed some variation, but it was less consistent. It was more like they just had a bad year for food now and then. So this evidence suggests that Edmontosaurus in the Arctic regularly went through some pretty lean times, either by toughing it out through the winter or maybe even by migrating in search of food. And some experts do think that hadrosaurs might have migrated, either within the Arctic Circle or maybe a bit farther south. But there's more evidence to consider. Paleontologists have found mass bone beds of juvenile Edmontosaurus in Alaska, but they were probably caused by rivers flooding their banks in the spring, not winter. And some researchers think that these little dinos would have been too small to migrate very far. So while
we saw that in the previous video, remember? Phil Curry seemed to be a proponent of the idea that these dinosaurs are migrating in and out of the Arctic Circle like that. Like we've got evidence for dinosaur migrations in, say, Alberta. But the researchers who were actually working up there in Alaska...
And it's therefore likely that we're here today because, by the luck of the draw, dinosaurs who had been dominant over mammals in ordinary times got felled in a mass extinction.
Niscalo, thank you for the 11 months of support. I appreciate that very much. Welcome back. It's good to have you here. Thanks for keeping me online. Let's continue.
Experts differ on how exactly Edmontosaurus spent their winters. They agree that those dinos were not alone. In some of these Edmontosaurus bone beds, paleontologists have found tooth marks on bones as well as shed teeth. And some of those match the teeth of Troodon. Based on how common their teeth are in the Arctic, it looks like this dinosaur was really abundant up north. So how did Troodon survive?
Oh, well, we now have some evidence that that troodontids, I think in the Horseshoe Canyon Formation, or was it the Dinosaur Park Formation? I forget. Somewhere in Canada, in Alberta, the isotopic signatures of, like, found in troodontid teeth suggest they were eating plants, in addition to meat. This is from a meat-eating group of dinosaurs. You know, Maniraptoran dinosaurs are mostly meat-eaters, but troodontids, they may have supplemented their diet with plants. Let's see if she mentions that here, because that paper was just published, what, like less than a month ago, right?
Well, for one thing, it had large forward-facing eyes that probably helped it take in as much light as possible. Based on research from other Troodon specimens, they had binocular vision.
Oh, and Henrietta says it looks kind of like a raptor. I mean, it does look like a dromaeosaur. Yeah. So, troodontids are part of a group called Deinonychosauria. So Deinonychosaurs are troodontids and dromaeosaurs. So like Velociraptor from Jurassic Park, it actually would have looked more like this in life, covered with feathers. But yeah, this is a very close relative of the troodontids. Troodontids and dromaeosaurs are very close to each other, as you see here. Within the Maniraptora. Troodontids, like Troodon, and dromaeosaurs, like Velociraptor, Deinonychus, Utahraptor. They are very closely related to each other. They're within a clade called Deinonychosauria together. So yeah, you were right, Henrietta. You were right.
Similar to modern avian raptors, and a brain size within the range of extant birds. This means they could have probably seen well in low light. And like other members of its extended family, the Troodontidae, it was also probably covered in feathers, which would have helped insulate it against the cold. But there was something else that these Arctic Troodon had that their southern relatives didn't, that allowed them to survive.
Yeah, they were
large
big
bodies. The teeth of Troodon from the Arctic are about twice as big as those of Troodon from farther south. So instead of being about 2 meters long, Arctic Troodon was probably twice that, more like 4 meters in length.
So think about like, you know, like an American black bear versus a polar bear.
Some researchers think a lack of other predators might have made this large size possible, but others think it could be the result of phenotypic plasticity. This is when an organism's behavior, morphology, and physiology change in response to its environment. For example, in many modern animals like the gray wolf, we see larger sizes when their prey are larger or more abundant. And in Troodon, getting bigger may have been a response to a greater availability of food, since there wasn't much competition from other predatory dinosaurs.
And you're right, Charlie's Dragon. Yeah, a larger size does make it easier to conserve heat because you've got less surface area per volume. So, or rather, you've got more volume per surface area, I guess, is the better way to think of it. Yeah, it's much easier for like an elephant to stay warm in the cold than it is for a mouse to stay warm in the cold. You know, a mouse is going to have more heat escaping because it's got more surface area compared to its volume. Yeah, and there you go, Steely Dan. Yeah. Exactly. I've got such sharp people in chat. This is, oh man, makes it fun for me, you know. Yeah.
Or it might have just been a way for Troodon to have bigger eyes, an advantage for hunting in low light conditions.
That's interesting nautical
But finally, there was another.
Things like the lesser weasel, who's a northern, one of the smaller species of mustelids. Yeah, it doesn't always go in that direction. So like high latitude gigantism is a thing, but sometimes there's exceptions to that rule. You've got other forces, you've got other things, selective forces being exerted on populations to make them smaller up north. Sometimes there is less food available up north, and so the critters just tend to be smaller. But for the most part, you find larger animals up north. Polar bears are bigger than American black bears. Siberian tigers are larger than Bengal tigers. Animals that are living in colder environments, oftentimes they are bigger, but it's not always true. Yeah.
Another dinosaur that lived in the Cretaceous Arctic, and it did things a little differently. This carnivore was Nanuqsaurus, a northern relative of Tyrannosaurus rex. And while Arctic Troodon survived by getting bigger than its southern cousins, Nanuqsaurus did the opposite. It got...
Did it though? I don't necessarily buy this idea, you know? We've got, I think, one specimen of Nanuqsaurus, and it might be from a juvenile. Also, it's from earlier in time than Tyrannosaurus rex. Tyrannosaurus is the largest of the tyrannosaurs, and it's also the last one. There does seem to be like an overall... There's some kind of a trend toward larger size in tyrannosaurs, at least in the sense that T-Rex is both the last and the biggest. So we would expect Nanuqsaurus to be smaller, but also we don't know if it was full grown because there's only one specimen of this critter as far as I know. I mean, shoot, let's look it up.
Ontogeny.
There we go. I didn't realize its name meant polar bear lizard. That's very cool. Known only from a partial skull and multiple undescribed postcranial and teeth elements. So yeah. That's how much of it we have. We've got the distal denary, so the end of the left part of the lower jaw. We've got one bone from up top, and we've got a fragment of the maxilla there too. And that's it. Holy cow. Yeah, not a lot. So we really don't know if this animal was mature or not. You know? Yeah, here's several proposed adult sizes for this animal. Just guesses at how big it could get. We really don't know.
You need to take some of your own advice.
What's that?
Aren't you the man who told me to live every week like it's Shark Week?
James Howlett.
And that nothing's impossible except for dinosaurs? Don't give up on life, sir.
Wow.
James Howlett, thank you.
For all you do for the community. My kids share my love for paleontology more now with how you make history fun every day.
I appreciate that so much, James. Holy cow. Thank you. For your 27 months of support, that is a long time. And thank you for your kind words. It means a lot to me. Thank you. Holy cow. Thanks for helping me do what I do here. It's only because of the support of good folks like you that this is possible. So thank you for helping make this happen, you know? what that is, Mayor Space. The joke is lost on me. Yeah. And dribbling to fight. There is some of that in paleontology, I suppose. If we don't know how something was, then, you know, paleontologists in particular, I think, are compelled to draw things. Because drawing is fun. Especially when you're drawing dinosaurs. So that's how you get stuff like this. But yeah. Also, this is just super easy because you could just embiggen it in Photoshop. And that's what they did here. But yeah.
Got smaller. It was about 6 meters long, only around half the length of T-Rex.
Yeah, but we don't know if it was
so
full
why
grown
did
or not.
Troodon get bigger than its relatives while Nanoxaurus got smaller?
We don't know if it got smaller.
It has to do with how much food is
Yeah.
available. If Nanoxaurus was as big as its other Tyrannosaur relatives, it would have needed a lot more food to survive, especially if it was on the warm-blooded side. But food was limited, and it had at least some competition from Troodon, so a smaller body would have improved the chances that Nanoxaurus could survive in the Arctic.
This would be really funny if it turns out that Nanoxaurus is actually, like, almost as big as T-Rex. Like, when you're basing these ideas about ecology and you're, like, telling a story about this and it's based on such scanty evidence, you might not turn out to be true, you know? Yeah.
It seems like there was sort of a Goldilocks zone of body size for carnivorous dinosaurs in the Arctic. Not too big
Activated,
and not too small.
It's a possibility, yeah.
Right. But being adapted for life in the Arctic still couldn't save these dinos. They became extinct along with the other non-avian dinosaurs about 65 million years ago during the extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous period. They were already used to harsh conditions and low-quality diets, but the worldwide effects of the asteroid impact and volcanism that caused the KPG extinction probably pushed these animals to their breaking point. For as long as they could, though, the dinosaurs of the Arctic coped, and they did it with the help of evolutionary strategies that resemble those of animals that live there today, changing their diets and acquiring body sizes that help them optimize their energy use. Just goes to show that in a similar environment, if it was a good adaptation before, it will still probably be a good adaptation millions of years later. While the players might change, life is still playing the same game.
I like that. That is really lovely. Here's a link to that video right there. And very funny, Mayor Space. Oh, and Charlie's Dragon? Let me get to that. Yeah. I've also got to get ready for my my crossover stream with Balint tomorrow. So I've got to find some papers to send to him. I've already got an idea for a couple of them, but yeah. Anyway, it is now time for me to wrap this thing up. So without further ado, let's begin our wrap-up procedure here. And here's a Smilodon. Still with the old fangs. This is before I replace those fangs. Let's wrap this up. Because I've got other stuff to do tonight. And we'll see who is alive currently. Don't go away just yet. We are going to continue the science, holy cow, with Astro Canuck, who is doing some live astrophotography. Holy cow, very cool. What's he looking at here? Is this the moon? I see craters. Very cool. Oop. There we go. It helps if I spell it correctly. Wrap it like a Christmas present. There you go, Mayor Space. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with me today. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. I learned some stuff tonight. I always learn something while I'm streaming, though. And thank you to everybody whose names are showing up here in our credits. Cheerers and moderators, subscribers and gifters, raiders, and chatters and question askers and lurkers and everybody. Thank you so much for making this a fun stream. Tomorrow, we'll be covering some fossil news. I might open up some items from the P.O. Box tomorrow. And it's going to be a good time. So everybody, you take care of yourselves, and let's go see what Astro Canuck is doing. I'll see you there. Take care.